Dobro Pajalovat, hello everybody, and welcome back to Revival Tournament, brought to you by Revival Divisions League. That is us. This night we will be watching the final matchup of the Round 2 higher bracket, what that means for the teams, and especially the winner and loser of this matchup, I will clarify soon. But first, my name is Mathis, I'm your host for today, and in my time zone, I'm pushing 1 AM, and if you know me, then you also know I don't sleep very much, meaning I've been awake for a good 20 hours now, and am operating on 5 hours of sleep, meaning I will hand over to my caster shortly, whose pictures you've already seen on screen, because yes, it is not my voice that will accompany you throughout the trials. But hey, the upside of it being so late, it's a calm 22 degrees Celsius outside, meaning I'm also not boiling alive indoors. Gosh, I love summer. The trailer you saw at the beginning was made by the lovely Torsolman, one of our designers. In case you missed it, it is uploaded to our YouTube channel, and I cannot tolerate anyone missing this work of art. So type !YouTube in the chat, you will be redirected directly to our channel. Not only will you find the trailer there, but also other videos, including VODs of every livestream. We multi-stream to Twitch and YouTube simultaneously, so all the more reason to head over to our channel and subscribe to not miss out, in case Twitch is not your cup of tea. I'm personally not the greatest fan of navigating through VODs on Twitch either, YouTube just makes it so much easier, so again, !YouTube to find all VODs there. While you're at it, don't forget about our Discord channel, use !Discord to join the community, in case you want to reach out or need to read up on the rule set. Everything you may ever need can be found on our Discord server. 2 days ago, we got to witness an amazing matchup between Elysium and Serene, and despite it having ended 2-0, it was no sweep whatsoever in my opinion. The games were super close, with some of the most exciting moments I've ever seen in Comp, and to all the haters of my balancing, it showed I had the right idea, because we ended up exactly in that 6 to 10 range every time. Seems like Mathis does know what he's doing after all, and I will also use this matchup to explain how the bracket works at this stage. Serene descended to the lower bracket and will meet Aegis there next week. Double elimination means every team gets a second chance, but once having descended to the lower bracket, you cannot afford any mistake and will be eliminated entirely if you let your guard down once more. Elysium advance in the higher bracket and will meet Sinners in 2 weeks. The arrows you see on the bracket screen indicate where the 12 teams invited to the tournament started. 8 teams started in round 1, the other 4 in round 2. And how did this come about? The seeding was entirely randomized, meaning any team could have skipped round 1. Use the command !challenge in chat if you're not satisfied with just seeing the bracket on screen right now and want to get a better understanding of team placements and what paths are set out for them in the tournament. Results are posted there quicker than on our graphics, since everything is hand-designed, and on Challenge it only takes us a couple clicks, so do take advantage of what Challenge has to offer. This is where I finally hand over to my casters. I shall start in alphabetical order. Both faces are familiar and need no further introduction. Good evening, Cyber. My pleasure as always. How are we doing tonight?
It is great. This is the first game I've actually got to cast out of being middle of the day, the hottest point. So I won't be sweating in my room finally watching the match tonight. Instead, it is also pretty cool as it's starting to get to sundown for myself. I think it's coming up on 6 o'clock for me. So a little bit better than the 1 AM that you are personally dealing with. But no, I am excited for this matchup. Petroleum versus Mercy. This is going to be an amazing game. And I have a little bit of, correct me if I'm wrong here, a lapse in sets here. Mercy have already played one of these sets, and I'm going to talk about it with Volkuz shortly. But first, I want to pass it over to Volkuz. Are you excited, Volkuz, for this match?
You best believe I am. It is a nice little midnight here over in the UK. A bit earlier than Mathis, so I guess location diff, but alas, still a bit late, which does also mean it is slightly cooler, much more enjoyable. Even though might be sleepy, I am sure these games will wake me right up. And what games we have, actually, even before we think about, I think, Cyber, about talking about what Mercy might have played with before, I think we need to talk about a bit about the return of Team Petroleum, of Team PTR, who in the last sort of few months, maybe a year, maybe a bit more, have undergone changes, back and forth roster changes, rebrands. We have Team Winter, we had Team Winter with Julian, Team Winter without Julian. We have it seems like there's whole different iterations of the same team. And as our resident NA caster, I would love for you to tell me how you feel about seeing Petroleum back in one piece.
Petroleum to me is the epitome of entertainment. they're have such explosive fun matches where you'll see them play insane. The killer players you're referring to a lot of times are Momo and Julian, who can have on their main killers that they're feeling good on the day just such good performances. But then you also have matches where they're not particularly playing their best, and it is still entertaining to watch, but you're still seeing them get through those trials and tribulations that sometimes. And now we're coming back. Are we going to see a bit of resurgence in that honeymoon phase of the return of Petroleum? Specifically, the members that I think have returned are Julian and Kenshi. Because I'm pretty sure at least Momo and Acid, well, Momo we obviously know has been here the entire time, but I'm pretty sure Acid has been as well, alongside then the pickups they made in that time of it being winter with Jaden and Finesse. So I'm intrigued to see where things end up shaking up. I imagine we're going to see the original 4 Petroleum members on roster, but nonetheless, I'm going to be entertained, I think.
Entertaining is probably the single best word to use when describing Team Petroleum. And I say they have such great chemistry, and unfortunately we won't be able to listen to their comms today as we'll be too focused on speaking about the game to every single one of our lovely viewers here watching at home. And I don't know, it's just there's just something so fun about it. You're 100% right, Cyber, and I think they've played a couple matches since the great. I don't even want to call it a rebrand. I'll call it back to basics, back to Petroleum roots. They have played a couple games, but unfortunately, I have not had the chance to follow their results, their performances. Regardless, this team has a lot of history. They have a lot of chemistry, and overall, they are quite, I feel, balanced in a lot of the things they do. I feel like they have consistent. On a good day, they are always kind of consistent. They have a certain consistency to speak of. They are not so much like some teams where you can see you can tell they're playing well, but maybe their comms aren't quite there. You can tell maybe there's a bit of like infighting going on about what the right play is. And even though, like any good comm team, Team Petroleum will do their fair share of disagreeing, they usually end up at a seemingly consistent game plan, which I always love to see. Speaking of the game plan, going into our sets that we have here for you today, as you may have already seen on your screen, we have Oni on Rotten Fields, Petroleum's pick, Ghoul on Ormond Lake Mine from Mercy, and Dr. Forgotten Ruins. We'll leave that one for a little bit. I know you've all just heard Dr. Forgotten Ruins and want to immediately jump at our opportunity to talk about the map. We will get there when we get there. But firstly, Rotten Fields on Oni, I always feel personally from my playing experience, every time you put me on a Cold Wind map, I am immediately hit with a solar flare of corn right into my corneas, no pun intended. And it is, I feel like that is such a distinct disadvantage for me personally. I know a lot of other people in the community struggle to see through the corn. I am for sure one of them. I am assuming that our players here today will not be bothered by such tribulations. However, it will be interesting to see. It can introduce quite a funny aspect of it, of why did we not see that person rotating for unhook? Why did we not see this? Because we just didn't see them through the corn. So it's always interesting to see how Cold Wind matches could possibly play out, Cyber.
Absolutely here. In Cold Wind, specifically Rotten Fields, is so different compared to the standard Oni map of Coal Tower. Whereas you're mostly on Coal Tower expecting a very strong first chase. The killer should find someone pretty early on, as it's very easy to spot people on Coal Tower rotating down the map because it is so small. But like on the polar opposite, Rotten Fields is so hard to find people. Your limited line of sight is so small to see people through that corn. You have some areas that are not like that, but you have tiles and hay bales and tractors and cow trees to hide around. It's just so much more difficult. But on the opposite end, the chase is going to be a lot worse. There's a lot less filler pallets. Things don't chain together quite as smoothly. So it really comes down to, I think, the confidence in chase, but more how confident you are in not getting caught out and being in an awful position. Where Onis could snowball with power, you're not going to have the filler pallets or the windows to really be able to last versus those. I don't know, Volkuz. It's going to be very intriguing to see here how the teams end up going in, and especially Petroleum, we know, such a comfortable team on that Oni historically, how they end up doing in today's matchup.
That's very true, and even though all of our teams have got many hours in this game, I've accumulated tens of thousands, maybe even 100,000 hours on some teams. Our players here are very experienced, not of course just in our standard comp maps like City 1 only. They have of course played the fair share of pubs, on Killer, on Survivor, doing win streaks, and these maps just naturally come up over the course of the game. And Rotten Fields is not really a map that has changed a lot recently. There's been, of course, visual updates to the game, and overall how your reshade might also affect it if you don't have your preset ready to go. But overall, the map is pretty samey. Our structures go to the same side. It has that wrecker's yard middle map shack into pretty much next to nothing possibility of you want to have a nice good first chase at shack even, and then you try to get yourself to a filler pallet. It's just nothing quite there. So it's for sure going to be interesting, and I do think our teams are going to be able to adapt simply because of their past experience in public games and maybe some other odd ruled tournaments. However, will they be able to adapt to go up against the likes of Mercy? Because even though we haven't spoken about them, Mercy is an absolute powerhouse. For me, Team Mercy kind of holds a bit of a special place in my heart because they are I think one of the most prevalent sort of underdog stories in DBD. They are the team, usually in DBD, it's very hard for newer teams and teams of a lower tier level compared to our top tier teams to go and break the roof, break the barrier from one tier to another. And over the last couple of years, Mercy, I'm not sure actually a couple of years, at least 1 year and something for sure, Mercy has just been climbing and climbing and climbing. They're pretty similar core roster, just improving at the game and trying their best to break out of that mid-tier comp and really show that they can hang with the top 6, top 5 teams in this game. And that's one of the stories I love the most, because it really shows you that dedication and hard work could propel you forward into those higher levels of play. And if anybody can do it, it's Team Mercy. So I would say, even though Team Petroleum has a great chance here today, I feel. Actually, somebody asked me earlier, shameless self-promo, but somebody asked me in my stream what I felt would be the outcome of this game. And honestly, usually, as somebody who has a lot of experience here in the comp scene, has cast a lot of games, watched a lot of games, seen that, just from hearing the names of the teams, I can usually give you a default answer. Not only could I not give you a default answer, I in my mind immediately went to, let's see what the sets are. And then I saw the sets, and I thought, wow, I still cannot come to an answer. So even though this technically on paper might not be the most exciting matchup for people at home, because it's not the top of the top teams, they are most certainly going to be, I think, on pretty equal flooring, on pretty equal ground, excuse me. And they're going to trade blows really, really effectively here. And Cyber, I would love to know if you think that's going to be the case, because I just can't help but feel that there is a similar skill level here today between these two teams.
Honestly, yes, I would have to agree. I think Petroleum's historically been that spot where they are the top of NA. NA is definitely a little bit weaker compared to EU, but they've constantly been punching up. They've taken wins occasionally off those top teams. They've also lost to some teams that aren't as amazing. So it's always that fluctuation to where Mercy has been trying to do that same thing. Mercy's been punching up, occasionally can have those very good results versus those top tier teams, and then sometimes slips off a little bit. But I mean, to talk about Mercy's results, we have to go to round 1 of their match versus Aegis, where we saw they played the Ghoul set. Now, mind you, that was on Suffocation Pit 2. This week's is on Ormond Lake Mine, but merged on Ghoul. Oh my gosh. Merged, I think, what was it? A 4K3, just full slugging out, caught every rotation of the Aegis survivors, just played phenomenal gameplay. And then the serve side as well, played very well, held it down. I think 3v1 was forced by Aegis's killer Valdez, but they just kept playing safe. They did not give anything up to the killer. Even though they didn't have the strongest tiles, they were running away early enough. They were winning their 50-50s on those versus the Ghoul power, not giving absolutely anything. And I'm pretty sure it was also a very strong 3-gen as well, or at least a decent one at that, around the middle of the map. So I'm intrigued to see here. Ormond Lake Mine is definitely a bit more traditional map. I don't think we've seen Suffocation 2 much at all, honestly, in comp historically, once the second Macmillan versions were released. But yeah, I'm very intrigued to see Petroleum also is a pretty confident Ghoul team, I would say, Volkuz.
Yeah, I mean, we have Momo on the Ghoul, presumably, and Momo's mechanics on the Ghoul have always been up there. I believe we do also have Finesse in Petroleum's roster currently. Finesse, also known for being a very good Ghoul player, has one of the, at some point, I'm not sure if he still does, I think held the longest win streak in pubs with the Ghoul. So definitely very comfortable mechanically, and I think Ormond Lake Mine being a more standard map, not only is Ormond Lake Mine a more standard map now ever since Ghoul moved away from Blood Lodge, I do still think it is the most skill expressive map for Ghoul. Ormond Lake Mine really equalizes the playing ground and makes it so that the better killer wins. I always feel that Ormond Lake Mine is one of those maps on the Ghoul that just incentivizes you having the better mechanics, the better skill, the more experience. And I honestly don't know out of these two teams. I think the Ghoul set's going to be the closest. I honestly do not know which of these two teams would perform better on the Ghoul. Whether it's Momo, whether it's or whether it's Finesse. We have two very strong Ghoul players. Merst has just any M2 killer he touches, it seems he just turns to gold. Merst is one of my favorite players to watch, honestly. I just love his performances. His killer is always a treat to watch. It seems like when he wins by a landslide. You can tell this is a classic Merst performance, and I do hope we see some of that today. However, that is only our second set. On our first set, we still have the Oni Rotten Fields. And honestly, Cyber, I kind of want to give the edge to Petroleum for this one.
I don't know. Mercy is so consistent. Definitely, I don't know. Their chases, they normally have Outer, Bandit, Merched, Vobo, Ty Lion. Like, these are survivors that all are very confident in chase. Now, to say that, saying that does not mean Petroleum is not confident in chase, but I just don't know how they're going to be able to get that first hit. If they can play so safe, and then once they're finally spotted out on Rotten Fields, be able to secure that, the map could just be so brutally split for the killer. It might be so difficult, but on the other side of the coin, I mean, yeah, the Petroleum survivors are also very explosive in chase, especially when I think of star chase on Petroleum. I mean, I have to think of Acid. Acid has always been the consistent chase for me on that roster. Always seen performing. He's been all around just, I feel like, the star survivor on that team when it comes to mechanics. But unless I think we are starting to load into our first Oni Rotten Fields game. Like you alluded to, it is going to be Momo on the Oni. We'll have Mercy on Survivor. I didn't quite catch who are our 4 survivors from Mercy that are in. But I'm excited to see. Do you think we'll see the survivors play a very aggressive rotation early on Volkuz, or maybe slow it down just because of the corn?
I think it's far too risky to go aggressive in the beginning here. One good spot through that corn, being out of position, especially when we have to think there's going to be a bit of ping in play as well. We do have an NA versus EU matchup here. So some ping going to be in play. Fillers are spread out quite a lot, and the ones that exist are not particularly good. So if an early game rotation gets found, and you're trying to rotate fast, you end up being in a bad spot, then it's going to be very problematic. However, there is of course a way where you do your rotation fast, but in an intelligent way, in a smart way, which at least guarantees that you will make something before you're ever in danger of an M1. Seeing this here, we're now loaded in. We have Momo on the Oni, as we said, very classic build. Pop Eruption, Painless Corrupt, no explaining needed here, does not get much better than that. And now it's going to be all about going to the enemy team spawn, seeing, also scouting out the map for your gen, what kind of gen setup you can play here. And it seems that we already spotted out Merst, pre-dropping this 4 lane here, and going to use that live to get to the shack. And that is exactly it. Shack is so guaranteed on this map. The problem is, what do you do after? Has quite a lot of distance around this shack. Is going to be able to play the window into the pallet if he so chooses. Yeah, seems like that's going to be the case. Great fake there to win that 50 on the window. Now going to have a good check spot here. The windows of the shack are slightly more boarded up. Trying to lose chase so close to the window is a bit scary, but Mercy is so confident on it right now. Able to get that. It's going to play for the Jiggy Vault. No, he doesn't. He's going to drop that, stay safe, and try to make the next best thing. I'm not even sure if Momo is going to want to commit this. No, just content with taking that shack pallet out of the way and looking for his next potential blood bag.
And Vobo is going to be the target we end up spotting here around the meat tree here. Going to be gradient, is running it the wrong way, so isn't going to be able to get the fast vault on the window, but I think we are going to make one more cycle back to that pallet, and yes, we do. Going to be forced to drop that Momo. Going to try to zone as much as possible. We know the survivor is not Lithe, as that was Merged who has it, so Vobo, what else do we have to our aid? It looks like we're sending it to the nearby tile. It's going to be close, though. This is a jungle gym. Are we going to make it to this pallet in time? We see that red state encroaching closer on our back, but Momo not ending up going for that swing. First gen does pop at the same time. and we are actually going to get the medium vault there. I think that was intentional by Vobo to try to hold on to that finesse a little bit longer. It's now going to be wrapping around the jungle gym, maybe playing the 50-50 on if we go for the window, but no, we are not. Instead, going to this filler pallet in the corner. Do we make it? I don't quite think so. Is Momo gaining that first hit, but at the cost of the second gen. These chases are lasting so long, and I think we saw that was a double gen. Both those survivors rotating away. Vobo now sending it to the maze towel they have. Momo isn't absorbing any blood though, so I think is just playing for an M1 down here, as Vobo still able to survive, but a good mind game actually, of course, as I say that. Momo hitting a demonic double back on that tile to cut off the nearby filler pallet that they read that Vobo was sending it towards, but that'll be our first hook of the trial. And what is our pain rest situation looking like? We do end up having one, as that'll be a solid regression on these gens here, Volkuz.
I was gonna say, Cyber, that was looking like a slightly greedy play. You lose your first 2 gens, you know another gen's gonna be about 20 to 30%, and you do not want to pick up your blood, try to go for a power, play it safe. No, you greed slightly and it pays off, and now you're in one of the best Oni positions possible. You have a survivor on hook, and you have power in hand. If anybody is watching me cast Oni before, you know that I love to allude to this because it's just such a powerful macro tool. Having the threat of power on the next healthy survivor while you have a hook and you know where a healthy survivor is going to be. Momo actually deciding to fake leaving that generator to catch a healthy survivor rotating back. That's exactly what's going to happen, and immediately converts that onto outer. Didn't give him even a millisecond to breathe before he was on his neck, slamming down that club, and he's going to be getting the second down on the game. Vobo now fully reset, and now this problem that we might run into is that we do not really have much blood left around the map for Momo to have another power in hand and get into that ideal Oni situation. We're going to need another M1. We know that sort of the bottom left side of the map, excuse me, or maybe the top right side of the map, has been slightly extinguished of resources. We do find Bandit over here with just a little couple more few bloods of blood around. Is it going to be enough to get our power? I would wager no, but I'm never sure. However, Bandit not really caught in the best spot right now. He's able to break away to the nearby window. Momo slightly letting him, but that is enough. And Momo choosing the more aggressive route, not going back to try to stop the unhook onto outer with power or try to confirm the second stage. No, instead going to use his pop eruption, and now popping power without eyes on the survivor. No, never mind, he actually does have eyes on him. Did see Vobo here earlier before, who only has the vault to play, needs to react super well. Unfortunately, that is just a lose situation. That's going to be Vobo going down, second hook, and outer currently is not getting reset unless he's resetting himself. We do have, we have the medkit on outer, so he's going to be able to get that heal. Very strong to have a medkit versus the Oni. To have one survivor being able to self-sufficiently heal themselves. However, Vobo is now going to be on death hook on the other side of the map, so this might turn slightly troublesome for Momo to defend and get a fast tunnel out, Cyber.
Yeah, I have to agree. And Momo, honestly, you said taking a little bit risky, not going back to that hook. Honestly, though, Momo has been playing as safe as possible for not tunneling. We are only popping the power when we have someone zoned and cornered into a tight area. We are making these chases fast, so we're able to hold on to as much of that power bar as possible, only needing a couple orbs each time. And I don't know if we have the power in hand right now, but we're rotating around that check. We're kind of loosely camping Vobo. Seems like making sure at the end of the day we just keep eyes on this hook, as outer looks like maybe lurking and wanting to push in towards us. I think that is, power going to be in hand, but Momo with the spot on outer. I have no idea how Momo's found that. Outer's going to take that hit and dive this hook now. Looks like this is just probably going to be a trade coming in, as Momo coming in swinging is going to end up getting that down on the outer. Third gen does pop at the same time, and Momo, yes, more than happy to just take the stage. This is another death hook survivor now, but actually no, we're not taking the same hook location. I think we might be going for a basement, or we might actually end up hooking on top of the active gen. This could spell disaster for them. His Bandit's gen is 90% here. Momo has that pop eruption in hand now if we want to kick that gen and take a large chunk out of its progress, but now, I mean, Momo definitely has the power in hand. Looks like I think we might be waiting for our eruption cooldown. Yes, now we're going to end up kicking that gen using our Pop Goes Weasel and eruption. But power in hand, gen high progress are next to us. This is a perfect situation for Momo, Volkuz.
And he finds Vobo. Not only that, he finds the other death hook survivor. Only has the 4-lane to play with. Now 4-lane can be dangerous against Oni power. You can easily get bamboozled, but he fakes the commit. He fakes the commit and comes right back to get Bandit down on the ground. Has procced Outer's BT. needs to play around this filler palette right now. Not really much to make. Gonna go back to the same, no, excuse me, this is the jungle gym, but I believe we still have the palette here. Yeah, not able to quite get through it right now. We need Vobo to rotate for this pickup fast. We need to get Bandit off of the ground to really pick up the gen progress, because Outer will be dying sooner rather than later. And if Bandit is not up off the ground for this, we could even slug. However, no, the power just about to run out, and that is indeed the case. So well played by Momo. Wait, the flashlight, not quite gonna be enough, and that's gonna be Outer dead. We still have Bandit injured right now, and we might even have eyes on Merst here in the corner of the map. I believe that is Merst. Yes, that is Merst. Was not yet even been in the crosshairs of Momo. Now going to be getting committed for this M1. Wins the mind game and is going to get another hit right now. Another injury on the board just after spending all that time resetting Bandit is just so much pressure from Momo. Pop Eruption going to go right onto this generator, and just when it looked like Team Mercy might have been in a good position, Momo with that hook and that rotate and the bait. Oh, what a beautiful bait from Momo to come right back, stop the unhook, or at least not give it for free, and then still be able to get his tunnel lock without losing another single gen. Momo is on fire right now.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. Here's another power in hand. We do not see Merch getting reset, so Momo should have an idea that they are back on that generator. It's now going to be walking her way over there. Do we spot these survivors? The corn vision is going to be a little bit difficult, but we do spot a crow fly up. We are going to be pushing now towards this cow tree. Which survivor is it? I think I see the pools of blood, so I would imagine this is Merged, and yes, it is going to be a very fast power down eruption, exploding both of those gens. No aura on Vobo, but we do, I think, might have seen Bandit sitting on this gen far away, but yeah, we are going to be sending it over, but that's going to be the fog vial popped. Are we able to lose the survivor? No, we're not. Momo staying on target here. Going to go around this pallet, but a beautiful flick on Bandit will surely meet their demise. And that'll be another survivor on the floor. Vobo, the last one standing. But Momo knows they don't have the power left in the bank. That'll just be a pickup on a Bandit right now, and presumably a pain res to take another bit of progress away from these generators. And now, this is the driver's seat you need in Oni. You need to just keep snowballing these chases, get these powers fast, keep them injured to have that infinite blood basically on the map. As Momo's pushing back to cross, we have the pop. These gens are slowly losing more and more progress, Volkuz.
Yeah, it's getting harder and harder for Mercy to make any sort of comeback right now. Vobo's gen has significantly more progress than the gen he freshly started, so I'm assuming he rotated off of that into a different generator. However, Momo is more than aware that that is going to be all of their gen pressure pretty much, and where it is concentrated. Just having the power in hand right now, perfectly measured out to give that blood. And honestly, if you are Team Mercy here, you might simply have to take the 4K one, maybe try to stack this generator for Vobo's chase, which is going to be a bit too much to ask for. That ping coming into effect as Vobo now is getting down, could be out of the game, but Momo doesn't choose, even though he has the blood on the map, does not choose to pick him up and take this down to a 2v1 just yet. Although I might say that he might have just changed his mind now that he realizes how much progress is actually on that generator. He's able to find the slug relatively fast. Not sure if that was tenacity or not. However, Vobo seemed like he made a bit of distance. However, not in the end. Yeah, that was tenacity. So Vobo gonna be going out. Now we're in the 2v1. And this is pretty much impossible. 4K2 is going to be almost in the bag. Momo should know both active generators. No matter which one he picks, he's going to have a good 30 seconds to get it down and then transfer to the other generator. It will be slightly better if he finds Merch simply to the Deja, might be able to make something happen. Finds Bandits first though, however, he doesn't need to commit. He just put that Pop Eruption on there, can just take his blood and go to the other generator. He's spending a bit too much time here trying to get this blood. Is it going to be enough for Merch to pop? I don't think so, but it might be very close. Momo knows it. He's coming off immersed, gets off of the gen. It's not enough time. We might be playing the slow stealth game for a bit right now. We need to run out this power, where even if we do, sooner rather than later, 2 survivors injured, no real way of resetting if they want to get this down to at least a 4K1. No time to stop the Oni from getting more and more blood. Having said this, however, the regression was stopped right here. Bandit trying to stealth, but gets found out by Momo. Momo's game sense has been absolutely insane this match. He's just been finding people left, right, and center. It's almost as if he just knows where they are, and now can comfortably slide to Merged, who should never be too far from this generator. But even if it was due to the geometry and the topology of this map, Momo could simply hold the cross while looking on this generator, and there would really not be much that Merged could do about it. On the contrary, he could also just choose to pick Bandit here, go get that pop in hand, make sure that generator under no circumstances gets done, and simply continue to dominate and secure the 4K2 for Petroleum with a beautiful start here.
And Merch going to be forced to rotate already. Looks like possibly setting up for an instant unhook while we kick that gen. Is Merch now going to be diving the hook fast? Is Momo aware of it? I don't think we're turning around, so I think we are going to take this. So no, I'm mistaken there. Merch going to be paying for it with their life. Now going to be, I think, end up picked up. But is this maybe a firecracker save or anything? Nope, this is the Fog Vial Survivor. That is not going to be any sort of save or anything. Bandit, I think, understands that this game is over. Isn't going to go try to stealth out. Doesn't want to drag it out too long. As, yeah, merged on hook. Looks like Bandit is going to just be forced away with the break of that pallet right now to the nearby jungle gym, but I think this pallet was used long ago. We have Smash It in hand, but no real tool. Is a beautiful double back fast fault. Almost lets us make that window once again, but no. Bandit gets the unfortunate birthday present of on the floor once again, and back to the camp where we go is Momo with a 4K2. You know, especially with everything allowed, I would have expected the survivors to get this to be a low stage set. You know, Oni normally struggles a lot versus healing perks, but Momo just never gave them a window to. Kept the pressure on at all points of the match.
Yeah, Momo, what a dominant display right there from Momo. Just every macro decision he made just culminated so beautifully into getting this 4K2. Finding Outer, I believe, especially, I have no idea how he managed to do that. Finding Outer and stealthing for this unhook, immediately gets attack on him and is going to be able, and is able to stop it from going. It's just beyond me. That find is just game ending. It's so bad, especially since when you're trying to manage the Oni blood pool as survivors, then having to go and just be faced with the fact that your savior's just been found is just catastrophic. And it seemed like Mercy on so many different times in the game, they had high generator progress, but Momo just did such a beautiful job balancing his chases and going back to those gens and making sure that they do stay low progress, or as low as humanly possible. Of course, he did have the Pop Eruption in his back pocket to help him, and this is one of the differences that we will see with CT. It's that you normally would see a bamboozle perhaps, but here there's simply no need. And yeah, look at this on your screen right now, ladies and gentlemen. You can see he finds Outer just out of the blue. I'm not sure how you could have thrown in this so much in the way. I'm not sure if there was a specific point where he could have been seen, but yeah, look, maybe just then, and that's why it's so important with Killer to always be on the lookout for rotations. You never know what you might find, but through a cow tree, through the corn, through the gen, through the lockers, the smallest bit of LOS, and Momo saw it, found it, capitalized on it. Just brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely. Here's that find, I think, was the tipping point. Is look at the progress the survivors had on board then. Merch's gen about to pop here. And we also have, I think that his Bandit's gen is over 50%. Outer, so unfortunate. As I think, yeah, also sticking out a little bit around the rock there. Just the perfect find for Momo. Immediately was able to get that down. I think took the hook stage to put another survivor on that death hook situation. And then the moment later, I don't know if we have it, but it was the double back. The fake that you had pointed out so much, Volkuz. Going back to that hook, taking the down power trade on hook, immediately hitting the base kit endurance of, I think that was Outer, coming off of that next hook. Just such a beautiful play as, yeah, just Momo kept the pressure on at all points in this trial.
Demon plays from Momo, honestly. I have no other way to put it. I don't know how else I would explain it. Just Momo was simply on fire. ComTBD by all means, put this in the next Killer video. This has been absolutely insane from Momo. Honestly, one of the best Oni performances I have seen almost in recent memory. It's almost like I'm watching Zaka play. It kind of feels like that. And I'm sure Momo should be very pleased. And maybe based off of this hot streak, it will also answer the question of whether he or Finesse will be playing the Ghoul in the next set. If Momo is feeling so sharp today, and yeah, I think you just give him whatever killer he wants and you call it a day. However, on the flip side, we're going to have Outer playing the Oni for Team Mercy, who they did also play an Oni set. I don't remember exactly where, but they did play an Oni set recently. However, Outer did not perform so well on the Oni as he would have liked. I'm pretty sure he was quite dissatisfied with his Oni performance. So I think he's out for vengeance today to go out and prove to the world that his Oni is truly top tier. and that he's gonna have a very, very hard win condition to match here. 4k3 most likely they're not gonna be impossible unless Team Petroleum makes very, very critical early game errors, which I do not expect. So more likely than not, gonna have to try to get that tie in mind. But again, 4k2 only tie on this rule set is gonna be more than difficult. Maybe Outer though can prove me wrong.
Yeah, I'm also intrigued to see how does Outer choose to play this. 4k2. Normally in Oni sets, if you choose to come back and tunnel out, you are just accepting that some gens are going to pop. You know, you pay the price. If you want to try to get a 3v1 as soon as possible, there's going to be at least 2 survivors on the opposite side of the map or far, far away from you nonetheless that are going to just be sitting on generators unless the survivor that is getting tunneled out makes the unfortunate mistake of dying too close to them. But, I mean, these are pretty top tier teams. You cannot be expecting that as a killer player going into these matchups. You never should be expecting those kinds of mistakes. If they happen, they happen, and that's very lucky for you. But yeah, I'm intrigued to see. Momo didn't go for that tunneling style, instead bounced between the survivors, got 2 pain reses pretty early on, but then still chained a lot of pop interruptions, keeping the chases up though to keep those regression events coming through. I'm just intrigued to see how Outer ends up wanting to play this Volkuz.
Yeah, it's going to be very difficult from Outer, and it's as you said, Cyber, you put it very well. You cannot expect these mistakes, but you need to be able to capitalize on them if and when they do come up. Because surely here, Outer getting found was not, you can call it a slight mistake on Mercy's side, but again, that almost feels like an act of God. Just Outer was in a good stealth spot, Momo happened to be rotating, and there was just a slightly bit of LOS, but exactly those types of plays are the reasons why a lot of the times even the top teams lose, and why it can be so difficult for them it's so difficult in comp in general to accept a bitter defeat, because sometimes it's simply out of your control. You, as we say, just caught a bad timing, and that is something that can happen and that you need to come to terms with. However, I'm sure it's all going to be fine, and Team Petroleum is not going to make any critical errors, and they might be easily in a position to take their set choice on the Oni. And again, it is their third choice, of course. Momo, a lot of experience. The team, the survivor side, should also have a lot of experience and have thought about this matchup ahead of time. We do know, I do think maybe picking this was partly because of Mercy's performance on the Oni last time around when we saw them play it somewhere last week. I really can't remember where, but yeah, I don't think they did as well as people expected. So the Oni might simply be a little counter pick to Team Mercy's comp. Very rare that teams have a set that they're sometimes worse on like this, but it might just be the case, or they could be fluking and they're cooking up something crazy for us here with Outer on the Oni. Only time will tell, as we are now in our lobby getting ready to load in here. I think we're going to be going in with Kenshi, Acid, Jaden, and Momo on the survivor side here. Strong roster for sure. Let's see how well they've prepared, and if they're going to be able, all they need to do, pop 4 generators. If they're able to pop 4 generators, then they're going to be absolutely a-okay to take that very first set point and move on to the Ghoul, which again should be a very hard fought set for them as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And to touch on a little bit, I don't know what match you are referring to specifically, but in round 1, Aegis versus Mercy, the tiebreaker set, we did not end up going to. Mercy took it 2-0, but that would have been Oni Rottenfield, so it would have been a bit of a litmus test, a bit to see how the teams ended up performing here. We talked about at the end of that game that Mercy was going to end up versing Petroleum, and how the pick and bans would have fallen because of that match. Was Petroleum watching? Is that going to affect their mindset? As we saw, obviously, they performed so well on that Ghoul set, and also played very well on Billy sets that Petroleum also is very familiar with. But unless we are back on that Oni, Outer going to be our pilot, and a little bit difference in build, actually.
No corrupt!
No corrupt. We still do have the pain res and the eruption, but we opted for a bit more passive aggression. We have the Hex Ruin and the Hex Undying, so honestly, just hoping for possibly the ability to push these survivors off. We are going to find some scratch marks here up on top of the Harvester. Outer going to be swinging over top of this. Momo going to be jumping off the top of the Harvester, but bounce landing going to be had. That would have been an insanely early tag there from Outer, but Momo going to be stuck and isolated here at not the strongest filler, and that is going to be an extremely early hit. Outer going for such an insane result. That's a great way to start this trial off, as Momo now just going to be stuck here at another filler pot playing these 50-50s. Like we said, this is cross ping, so going to be a little bit worrisome here, as Outer still just absorbing the blood here, not going for the swing yet. Looks like just buying time, wanting to wait for Momo to force the pallet down, and that is exactly what is the case. Momo dropped the pallet, and Outer immediately committed around that opposite side, now forcing away that resource. Kenshi is going to be cleansing a Hex Totem pretty early on here. That'll be the Undying out of the way, but we still are going to have our rune up. We see Acid and Nico are sitting on those generators. Momo on that hook. This is an electric way to start this trial for Outer, Volkuz.
Well, I have so many things to point out right here, Cyber. Firstly, the lack of Corrupt, I thought would be something that when you see a 4K2 result for your team, and you know you have to load in with no Corrupt, you know that you are, by default, in a bad spot. Last set, when it was Momo and Killer, we saw the first hit come out at 2 generators already popped. And now it came in before a Survivor barely had even time to touch the gen. Momo, even though we spent so long glazing you are the killer, that might have not have been the Survivor play of all time. But again, the uniqueness of the map will definitely have to fare into this. And now Outer, he's going around looking for this savior. And it seems he's on somebody's tail, and he finds Jaden. Oh my god, this is already could be so catastrophic. Jaden forcing the locker immediately. And now, but we have nobody yet ready in position to rotate. Acid just let go of their gen, and it's going to be going back. We have a hook right here. Can we make this pull for free? I'm not sure if it's going to be for free. We even used the live to get there in time. Folk Vial coming out to try to disorient Outer, who now has power in hand, power pulp, ready to go. Looking around, trying to navigate through this Folk Vial. If they make a break for it here and they get out, this is horrendous. But however, Acid does in fact get found. However, the missed flick from Outer not able to convert that. We have no filler pallet here though, so we should be seeing the death of Acid, and that is exactly going to be the case. First gen goes down, but 3 hooks and 2 injuries already on the board. We need to reset fast, lest we put Outer in a position to realistically actually win, because the last thing we could do is give a Ruin only power in hand with a hook.
Yeah, absolutely here. And something to point out there, because Nico just immediately forced that locker in that harvester, we had the power back instantly to come back. If we did find Momo, that would have just been even worse. It would have been Momo on Death Hook at 4 gens. Would have been so bad for the survivors, but Acid was the survivor that got found and ended up lasting a little bit and Chase flaring around that rock. We do see the Hex Rune ends up getting cleansed right now, so no more full passive aggression. We are going to end up finding Momo here around the couch. Are you going to be playing this Outer? One double back, gonna fake this. Are we gonna be able to get this cut off in time? This is not our light survivor. We're instead gonna send it to that pallet, and yes, we do end up making it. Outer more than comfortable just taking the break on that pallet. Now we're gonna be popping that power. Acid comes off the hook. Are we committing the Momo, or are we gonna be double backing for Acid? I think we are gonna end up committing this around the hill. Momo has the bounce line to be able to be used. Is gonna end up burning it towards this nearby filler pallet, greeting it because we have our haste. Has another nearby filler pallet, but this is very 50-50able. Are we going to be able to get this? Is Outer just running around this Momo, buying a decent chunk of time here. 1 volt going to be used, wrapping the gen actually instead to try to throw off Outer, but it will not work. So that'll be Momo on the floor once again. All survivors healthy, but a lot of gen progress gained in that time. Nico about to pop the second gen. Acid and Kenshi, I think, doubling up on another is, of course, as I say that, pain res end up going to be used. We did not get a pain res on that first hook for Momo, so going to be able to catch up to these generators, maybe go to them and get an eruption kick or 2.
What a great chase there from Momo. I actually bought a lot of time. I know it didn't feel like much, but it was definitely very good for our survivors here to get some momentum back on the board, make sure everybody's reset and get some more gen pressure on. Outer would need to 4K at the current amount of gens remaining in order to win the point for his team. It's actually kind of still doable. However, Momo's chase not being instant like it normally is with only power definitely meant that Outer could get in a different. Now trying to play the double backs around the L side here. Acid gonna be making this window vault on the T, now forced into a 50, loses the 50. Unfortunately, it didn't really have enough distance to even really play that 50 properly. Now Acid gonna be getting hit again. Team Petroleum only needs to pop 2 more generators to make things happen and get that first score on the board. And normally, if we had that chase and that start from Momo and everything in a normal stages game, that would be disaster. We could write the game off, but because Momo was able to secure that 4K2, it now becomes a much more a different endeavor for both sides right now. And it seems that momentum Outer had in the early game has all but dissipated right now. Gonna have that power in hand, still has eruption, no pop eruption however, so only small amounts of regression coming in at a time. Would have loved to find that reset there on Acid, however he's not able to do so. Popping power, convincing somebody's here. I haven't personally seen them myself, but if Outer knows, he knows. Whoa, Kenshi vaulting right back into Outer for a second. I thought that Outer might get slightly cucked there, but however that is not the case. Kenshi in fact does go down, and now Outer realizing that if he wants to 4K3 he needs to get more pressure, and that's exactly what he's going to do. Has that aura from the eruption proc. Is it gonna be enough to convert this? We'll convert this as absolutely huge. We find Jaden, but it's not gonna be enough. That smash hit away. Smash hit on the crossbring against the Oni. Outer reads the pathing perfectly and gets Jaden down. Power gonna be running out. Again, Momo, however, already there for the pickup onto Kenshi. But again, this is just such a back and forth battle for pressure right now, Cyber.
Yeah, look at this reset. It is already back. Kenshi off the floor, on their feet, and healthy. I think Momo might be playing body knowledge, which is why we are seeing those resets come through so fast. Actually, not know it ended up just being the desperate measures, but it's still insane healing speed to be able to get these survivors back up and on their feet. Not giving as much power as Momo. Looks like going to be playing for the zone hook, possibly just playing safe. Doesn't want to get spotted out. Just going to slowly work their way closer and closer. As I think that is Kenshi, who's also playing a little bit aggressive, actually. Running closer to that hook. I think we have a pretty high progress trend as Y, but also we have Outer semi-pushing them away. We don't have power in hand. It looks like you're trying to go for a bit of a mind game on the jungle gym, but Kenshi, well aware of that, not giving up anything to Outer thus yet. And now Momo going to be sending it into that hook. Looks like wants to try to pull Jaden. I think we are going to be able to get it, as I don't think we are coming back in time for this, but... Oh, maybe it actually will just be an M1 here. Momo going to be injured. 3rd gen pops. We can only meet the tie condition now. Outer cannot let anything else go. It's now, looks like our survivors pushing in. Kenshi going to be on top of that gen, but immediately going to get kicked and apply our eruption once again. But blood on the ground now, absorbing it. We have 2 Deathhook survivors, Momo and Jaden. Where does Outer want to go with this? We have power in hand, popping it on whoever this is around the shack. I didn't quite check which survivor it is. It looks like it is going to be Jaden, who's wrapping around the shack right now. Outer playing a bit of a mind game around this. Does end up sending around, but Jaden just fully left entirely. There's one thing to do with shack, but that'll be a good mind game by Outer, and a down onto Jaden. This will be a Deathhook survivor if we choose to take this, but I think we sense that someone else is nearby, and Momo exactly was a little too close to the sun. Gonna be down on the floor. Both Deathhook survivors now gonna go down, and I think we are gonna actually take this pickup. But Kenshi sitting this gen. If we already use the pain res on Jaden, I think we might see this gen pop here.
No, we're not. The pain was still in hand. Jaden's gen has been pushed back. That juicy 20%. Why did Jaden leave shack? Was he so scared of the mind game? He had so many vantage points there. Maybe could have made that chase last a little bit longer. And Momo getting caught out of position might be the cherry on top that Outer needed to secure a 4K2 and the tie on this set. However, Kenshi doing a wonderful job there, evading that M1. Is he going to be able to win another 15? No, he's not. He's going to end up taking that tag. Momo now getting picked up, and thankfully we're not going to a 2v1 quite yet. However, Outer is aware of how much generator progress exists right here, so he's going to kick that, make sure we have that eruption. Momo immediately reset again. The reset perks on the survivor side are going absolutely crazy right now. If we're in a bit more normal reset where we don't have all this amount of reset perks against the Oni, this game would have been more likely than not over by now. But look at that, Team Petroleum making excellent use of their builds and being able to coordinate every single reset to come greatly. However, the reset on Kenshi now is still taking a little bit of time. I wonder if somebody is here playing aggressively for this gen. Outer seems to be wondering the same, and we find the injured Kenshi right here on the gen. Power in hand, wins the mind game on the 4 lane. Is not going to be able to make that. No, he does just barely make that. Kenshi, great pathing right there. Grenout will be proud of how straight line that pathing was. And now Outer, look at that, look at that. Look how aggressive Kenshi is playing, unafraid, but Outer really too afraid to pull the trigger there. Gonna be able to get it down, but is the stack on the other gen coming through? Is it gonna be enough? Outer needs to rush there right now. If Kenshi was playing so aggressive, that probably means they pop, but the auras tell a different story, as now Outer needs to convert this. So close to converting onto Acid. It's not gonna be able to do so. What is Momo doing? Is he playing for the pick? Is he playing for the gen? Are we gonna be able to meet the win condition? Acid needs to last here, needs to make every little bit of power last. There's not so much power left over. We're able to stop it and get the M1. Instead, we have the pick onto Kenshi, and now the situation is slightly more manageable, slightly more reset, under control. If Momo was fighting for that gen and popped it, I was going to go absolutely ballistic. However, now this is going to be Acid, and I do believe this is going to be another pain res coming out right now. Huge for Outer to get this pain res. We did see Momo playing so aggressively, clearly trying to buy time for Kenshi to pop the generator. Not even on the other side of the map, these gens are not too far apart from each other whatsoever. Outer gonna happily take the kick off from here. Should not be able to get enough power just yet, but now Kenshi needs to tread very lightly. Is this gonna be enough for a power? Actually, I underestimated how much blood there was there. Even though Kenshi is in his face, the stack might be coming through on the other side. Can we stop both from popping? I'm not sure if we can, but if there's time for a miracle play, it is right now. Can we convert onto Acid? No, we cannot. And Tiebreaker, that is such a loss of momentum right now for Outer. The blast mine comes out. That might be it. The blast mine might have simply just won Petroleum this first set.
Yeah, we're gonna go back now. We know we have to leave. Kenshi's gonna be sitting on top of the Shen. It looks like we are gonna end up pre-leaving those Kenshi, buying a little bit of time, but Acid and Momo doubling that Gen. The head-on coming through. No eruption explosion, buying just enough time
No
needed.
way.
That'll be the Gen popping. It was the blast mine. It was the head-on. It was every little perk getting used by Petroleum to buy every little window until the only time they stopped resetting was both of those gens being basically 80% plus, when they knew they just needed to keep working them to push them over the edge to get the gens completed. And now it looks like we do end up taking that hook onto Kenshi, but the win count has already been met. Looks like we are going to have Acid diving this hook. Momo going to be the survivor in chase now. Are we going to just see these two stack a gen? I would imagine so, as I think Outer is fully committed on the Momo here for this hit. Does end up securing it, but looks like now we are going to kind of be going back. Looks like maybe, don't know if we expected someone to be up there, if that was just for style points, but nonetheless, going back to this gen, we have both of our injured survivors here, so going to be able to collect a decent amount of blood for this right now, as that'll probably be another power in hand in just a second. Yes, there it is. Outer immediately popping it, wants to try to go for a full slug. Sees the scratch marks though. No one spotted there just yet. Looks like we are going to try to possibly bait if we have someone here up on Tractor. Outer though doesn't spot anyone just yet there. No one spotted. Maybe expecting Momo with the bounce landing to be a little bit too greedy, as there is Momo around the 4 lane. Didn't end up stealthing it out for a little bit, but eventually met their demise. As I think, yeah, we have a survivor also. Acid. Oh, that probably looked like an insane hit from Acid screen, I can't lie. As I think Kenshi also now just going to run in. Understands there's nothing more to play for in this set. They're not going to pop another gen. It's a 2v1. Momo is dead. I think they're just kind of accepting the 4K one. They got what they came from in this trial.
Wow, I felt like I just ran a marathon, Cyber. That was just an absolute insane turn of events towards that end game here. Kenshi might have been trying to play for this last generator for a little bit while we're carrying Acid to the death and getting this 1v1 between Kenshi and Outer started. Ladder players unite, as now it is time. However, slight unfair advantage for Outer. He does start with power in hand. So what can you do? Is he going to be able to get a nice little flick for us? No, tried it. Tried to go through the window and get Kenshi out immediately. Not going to be enough. Does Kenshi make the pallet? No, he's still going to go for the corner here. Right between, but all for naught, as the game is already said and done. That's going to be 1-0 for Petroleum, winning their pick. Just barely though, it should be said. Even though Petroleum did an incredible job playing around their build and having just good timings overall and went to work gens, they barely scrapped by that 4K 1. With Outer just being aggressive at all the right times. And listen, even though I said earlier that maybe his last Oni performance was not what he wanted, he must surely be happy with this. Even though they lost, it was just so difficult for him to be in a situation to 4K2 there. Had a great start, lost a bit of momentum going into it. However, was able to regain a lot of it back. So it was a very strong early game for Outer, then slightly less on the early to mid game. Mid game ramped up again, and he kept trying to ramp it up all the way until this end game, where it was the most clutch, barely 4K1 I have ever seen.
Yeah, absolutely. Here it is now. Going over the replays of that trial, we have to talk about the start. You know, the end of the game was so fast. We have to talk about the start of that game. Outer had such a fast early hit. Momo, I don't know if they were caught out here, as they did end up getting the bounce landing off. It looked very close as Outer got that first swing to get up on top of the Tractor, and the second swing looked like it barely almost grazed Momo's back, but then isolated, stuck at these not very strong filler pallets. All it took was one mind game, and Outer had that initial injury, and then Momo forced to a second filler pallet where we just double backed. Outer just running back and forth until Momo eventually thought the swing was going to come through and drop the pallet, and then Outer just full committed immediately. As what a fast early game there for Outer. Definitely what they needed to try to get this going to secure that win con.
Yeah, so as I said, Outer really had his work cut out for him, especially when we loaded in and when we saw that we had the Ruin Undying on hand and no Corrupt to try to ease us into the early game, make sure we have a bit more time to get that first hit comfortably. Was able to get the first hit, so actually his gamble paid off greatly in the end there. But yeah, I think Momo also kind of looked like he was caught a bit off guard by Outer's ping, even though they know when he was a bit around that filler palette, he just kind of got caught out a little bit. Happens to the best of us, clearly, as we can see. But yeah, after that, the survivors, they had 3 hooks pretty much for the first generator. We can see here on our screen right now, Acid going for this very first down hook, using that Fog Vial excellently. And I must say, one of the things that I've been very impressed with and I've seen here in this league is exactly that, the use of Fog Vial as an allowed item. It can really show you how powerful it really can be, blocking that LOS at critical times and disorienting the killer with that staticky silent hill type fog noise that plays incessantly in their head while they're in that area. Great locker force here as well from Jaden, and then yeah, it just became so difficult from here. Honestly, if it wasn't for that locker force, we would have maybe even been looking at a very drastically different game, as that would mean more likely than not that Momo would have gone second stage here and would not have been able to be pulled in time by Acid, or at least it would have been a trade nonetheless, which again would have made it very difficult for Team Petroleum Survivor's time to recover. So great locker force there in the end to get those extra, not only the extra brownie points for every comp player. Outer unfortunately missed that flick. That would have been huge. It just felt like there's so many times in this game where there was an opportunity to go further and one team took it and the other team didn't. Another thing I want to bring to light, and I think you touched on it briefly there, Cyber, is just how well Team Petroleum was playing around the perks. And tell us a bit about that, how you should be using your reset perks in the Oni set and how they showcased it so well here.
Yeah, every time Outer wanted to cross the map to kick the gens, obviously after we cleanse Ruin and Die, we know Outer is going to have to commit to these kick animations. We did see at the end of the game Blastman and Head-On come in, but in that moment we saw Nico was stealthing on the edge map there while we were getting the reset on Momo, making sure every survivor was eventually healthy. No one got caught out during resets. That is the most punishing part of going for heals. Obviously, Oni, you never want to stay injured in this set. Giving more and more blood, just letting the killer have as much power as possible, just allowing so much time to be bought now. As looks like we ended up pushing out here for this, and that also smash hit, just something on crossbang you never end up seeing. Obviously didn't win the mind game of the double back, but still it allowed them to buy so much distance, getting that pre-drop to what could have been honestly in that moment a game-winning play from Nico right there, because we had just slugged our down on top of the harvester, which takes a solid chunk out of our power, I think roughly 25%. So you can't full slug on Oni, obviously, in power, or else you just end up losing it from the downs and loss of charge. But Outer eventually did end up getting that second down onto Nico. Also, to talk a little bit about it more, just such a difficult result. You talked about loading in without the corrupt intervention. That could just be game lost right there. You load in, the game could just realistically end on you. That's not an uncommon result when you play without corrupt, especially with a killer who doesn't load into the trial with hypermobility like Hillbilly, like Ghoul, someone who's very fast-paced. Because they could just have full stealth off start, split around the gens. There's no gens blocked off, so you have to patrol this whole map. And you could just lose gens before you even catch eyes on a survivor if you play safe enough.
Yeah, the Oni is simply an M1 killer with no mobility at the start of the game. He starts from being the worst killer in the game to one of the best while he is in power and really able to pressure that map a lot. And not only the fact that the power is high speed, but also of its incredibly high lethality. Oni chases versus the Oni in power are not supposed to last. It's always juke, play a 50, and pray for your life that you can, in fact, get out of that situation and buy even just a few more seconds. But yeah, again, I just say just so much back and forth. I noticed the moment I gasped the moment we loaded in, and there was no corrupt. As we said, when you have 4K2 on the board and you load in with no corrupt, you can just start crying there and there. The game should be over. However, that early find and tag onto Momo was arguably what kept him alive. And overall, Outer did a great job just snowballing his way through that early game. Wasn't able to pick it up simply because of that locker force by Jaden that just did so much for Team Petroleum. If it wasn't for that, it would have been lights out. However, enough about the Oni set. It is 1-0. However, now we need to go into Mercy's pick, which is the Ghoul or Ormond Lake Mine. Probably one of the most standard map and killer pairing combinations we have seen so far in this league. As we are now ready and loaded in, we're going to be seeing Merced on the Ghoul, who's rocking that no pain res. I'm not sure if that is a I'm not sure if that's a way of the balancing, or that we will not be allowed pain res plus pop and eruption. We have to choose between pop and eruption and pain res. However, opting to go for the pop eruption plus Grim Embrace. Getting an immediate first bite onto Kenshi, who does make it to the shack. Merged more than happy to take the shack pallet out of the way. This is the Resurgence Dead Hard Metal Tenacity. What a build for Kenshi to be rocking. What a cutoff! What a cutoff for Merged. It's too late to be shouting, but oh my god, what a masterful cutoff. Didn't give Kenshi a single millisecond to breathe. Immediately got that. That is so mechanically tricky to do. Oh my god, Merged coming right out of the gate and showing us why this is Mercy's pick.
Yeah, absolutely here. As we're going to end up pushing out here, we see the Grim Embrace going to be blocking these runners. We're dropping into the hole here around the silo. Does end up being the bite, so that whole haste is basically going to end up for naught as Momo forced up towards that top floor. Isn't going to go fully to the top floor of the main building just yet. Instead, going to look to find a nearby filler pallet. Kenshi does come off that hook, but we do not care. We have eyes for Momo right now. Going to try to send to that pallet, but not enough distance gained. So that'll be Momo on the floor, as I don't think we even care to go for this hook. As instead, another bite onto Kenshi. This will be our tunnel out survivor if we choose to commit this, as we see the scratch marks of the survivor that it got the unhook as well. At 5 gens still remaining, Kenshi going to be forced to vault that window. 1 vault 2, doesn't have the shack pallet anymore. That'll just be Kenshi on the floor. Once again, obviously, we see Kenshi has that dead hard, but the bite negating that entirely, as it already pushes us into the deep wounds. And now Kenshi going to take a short trip into the basement as Momo back on their feet. Looks like isn't going to get reset, instead going back to the generators, as this is a very, very fast start from Merch here. Can we find another healthy survivor to put pressure on to try to force a fast unhook to Kenshi? We'll have to see, Volkuz.
Yeah, I did find the combination of Resurgence and Dead Hard on the same build to be slightly counterintuitive against the Ghoul, because you get the unhook, you reset the survivor, then they're gonna get beat again, and they're gonna be in deep wound. It's gonna be very, very difficult to keep them healthy. Sometimes the Ghoul does choose to just M1 and then catch up with the power for an instant 2-tap, but 99% of the time you're going to be seeing a bite coming out here. Going to get the tag on to Jaden right now as they find the basement save. Are we gonna have one dead before a generator even pops? We're attempting another cutoff. That's not quite enough this time around, and this Palagym is just brutal to play on this map, simply because you can actually see through the cracks here. So default check spot, given kind of wall hacks for our survivor side here. We're going on this tunnel pallet that can be very safe, especially if it's linked to shack window. In this case, it's not. Merged sending it through that and going to be getting Kenshi out at 4 generators remaining, and that's barely right now. Jaden was here to help, so we can assume that they are not going to be, they have not been on a generator recently. Julian's generator should be high progress, getting ready to pop soon, I would imagine. However, Jaden getting found immediately. Jaden, why are we here gonna get found on the shack pallet, on the shack with no shack pallet? Doesn't have the distance to make the window, and that might simply be a game-losing play. It's one thing to get your tunnel out, but it's then another thing to give an instant next down as you're going into the 3v1. You'd like to be reset. You'd like to be working on something nice to get some momentum back here. However, that was just simply not the case. Jaden had to be down, got to be down immediately after that, and that is just, I feel like this is just going to be way too much momentum on Merch's side, Cyber.
Yeah, might be a little bit of deja vu here as a Merch. Another 4K3 might be inbound. We have 2 stacks of our Grim Embrace. Momo and Julian going to be the other 2 we are looking for. And now we have that pop interruption. We are going to end up finding Momo instead, just taking the bite to keep our enrage up for our power. As I would imagine, Merch is probably just going to kick this gen, get the pop interruption combo off. Yes, just taking out the regression of that gen. And now Merch, looking back to that hook, is going to go try to cut off. Maybe, is Julian already in the basement? Don't know, as I don't think they are. As yeah, scratch marks looks like they appear to be leaving, so I think we did get there a little bit early, as Julian wasn't able to quite make it towards that hook in time. Now getting spotted wrapping around this tile. Our second round going to be used. Our third is going to be used and getting the bite just over top of the barrels at this Ormond tile, but looks like I think we're just going to leave this now. Are we looking for Momo's rotation? Jaden going to end up slipping to the second stage here is Merged. Now, looks like going to go check the gem, but Momo does make it in time. Bounce landing forced to be used, but Jaden actually doesn't end up going to that second stage. But now we have the info. Momo has not been on the gem this entire time. Going for that window, does have the resilience, so it's going to be able to make that vault. And now, playing the 50-50s around the shack here. 1 bound going to be used. Momo already well aware of what the Ghoul wants to do in that situation. Immediately holding that window vault. Does make it, but I don't know how much more we have left to our arsenals. We have this filler up here, but it's going to be close. Do we end up hitting this? No, we do not. Momo with a fantastic read. Going to be able to buy a little bit more time, but our bounce landing was already used. So that'll just be Momo meeting the ground is that'll be our third Grim Embrace stack. Reset does come through. I think this is Botany Sally plus Desperate, so the heal coming through pretty fast. There is now a little bit of a spot for our survivors to get the edge back in this game, I'd say.
Yeah, definitely trying to get a bit more momentum, I say, as Julian gets down near the hook and gets M1 raw. He doesn't have a Shack Pallet to play. Merch slightly overshoots the slingshot here, so going to be giving Julian the distance to that track and also losing the enrage mode right now. But that should be... Oh, that was definitely not what Merch wanted. Did not want to vault that window. Sometimes that can just happen when we're trying to use the power on the Ghoul. Julian going to be going in. No, never mind. This is actually Jaden coming in all the way from the sidelines to get the unhook onto Moment. Jaden already been hooked, so more likely than not we want to stay here to try to keep the zoned Julian out and get that 4th stack of Grim. No, never mind. I think Merch realizes that there is really not that much gen focus on the map, and he wants that 4K3. He wants to go on a bit of a slugfest right now and finds Momo around the double pilot. Should not ever be getting hit here, I say, as Momo gets hit here. Oh my god, terrible caster curse timing right now, as yeah, Merch so aware of what ends up being worked on, how much progress there is and where he's able to find Julian. Last Grim Embrace. Jaden needs to pick up Momo if we're ever going to be in the market for getting another gen done. Tries this cut off the snow pile, slightly stopping that from coming through. However, we only have the Ormond to play on the Ormond. Double Ormond on the house. Can we break away to main? That's going to be what we want to do. So many juicy and safe resources there. Look how fast that reset is, as Julian on the guest spot. What is Julian doing? No, never mind. Merch going back is able to get away from that situation. Just barely. Merch chooses to go back and find somebody else to occupy their time with. Always is going to have Julian in the back pocket for that 4th stack of Grim. Now finds Momo. Gonna get another bite on him, and there's just simply not that much gen progress. Merch, all he needs to do is keep committing these chases and keep an eye out. Knows what gen Julian will already have a mental time. Already also knows that that gen is single file. Only one survivor can work on it, I believe. Jaden gonna have been healing by now, and yeah, there's that Soli reset coming again. Such a good perk, but Momo gonna be going down again. This is basement, far away from the active gens, but the Ghoul can't traverse this. The survivors are going to struggle, and Cyber, I honestly, unless we see a miracle chase and a rare macro misplay from Merch that would allow him to overcommit, I don't know how you as Team Petroleum get back into this game.
Don't know. Here's have the injury on Julian again. The thing is, comparing the Oni set to the Ghoul set, the survivors getting the resets constantly was so beneficial to them, but in this trial for Ghoul, it is so easy to be able to re-injure these survivors. As yeah, Jaden gonna end up taking an M1 just as is, but oh my goodness, if we get this whole endurance out, this would be insane, as I think we might actually be able to, as we even have Jaden coming in, vaulting back into Shack once again to try to protect Momo, who doesn't end up making out. Looks like is gonna be able to get the bounce landing in this little divot above Shack right now, and sending it towards that Shack window. Now, do we send it for the fast vault? Yes, we do. No M1 gonna be taken there, as understands that they're making that window every time, but it looks like the pickup just gonna immediately come through. We don't care about Momo in that situation. We instead just want to take the hook stage, get our pop interruption once again to go put it on top of Julian's gen, as I think we know exactly what gen that is. Momo just a nose. We cannot afford to let them go get this. As actually, it looks like we might have gotten a little greedy here, as Julian might be able to pop that gen now, as Momo going to be pushed away a little bit. Julian, how close is that gen? We see them on top of it. We know only 3 pistons are pumping, so it's about 75 right now, as we are able to get the bite on the Momo to get our enrage. We have those 3 Cognate leaps now, but I don't think the unhook is quite coming through. I would imagine now Merch going to be using those leaps to meet Julian over here. Our last Grim Embrace stack also has the pop and eruption. No Blast Mine going to be used there, as that'll be the gen taking a decent hit there, but we have all of our leads now. Are we able to get this, as we do end up with the bite? It's probably not what we were hoping for with Merch. I think we were aiming for some sort of slingshot around the tile, but I think at the end of the day, we're just going to take this kick on the pallet since we already have the bite on this survivor. But Julian now looks like going up the main stairs. Is Merch went for a little bit of a 180 there to immediately slingshot up the ramp, but didn't end up panning out in their favor, is buying a lot of time. We see the reset isn't coming through from our other survivors, as actually we end up spotting another one of our survivors. This will be Jaden, who might be playing here to just try to help. Is Jaden taking it down, but Julian, bit of a mistake there. I think didn't imagine to get stuck there. I don't know if it was the positions that were switched or what, but that'll be 2 survivors on the floor. Momo on a gen across the map. That's not how I expected this trial to end at all, but I think it might be how it is, Volkuz.
It might be how it is, and Merch tried to solve a bit of those mechanics for those of you at home. That was called the velocity slide, but he ended up getting auto-aimed to by Julian there. getting it down onto Julian and Jade, and now Merch slightly confused. Did not maybe expected Momo to be over one, but we have the Unbreakable. The Unbreakable, in fact, coming out. I was not aware that was in play. However, now Julian can simply get picked up. That's going to be 4th Grim. The Ghoul can activate that almost immediately, but just leaping one leap away will be enough to insta-activate it. And then with info on all the survivors, that it might just be all she wrote. Normally when 4th stack of green comes out, you want to try and stealth. However, I fear that is not going to be the case right now. Merch, look at that. He left to proc it and then immediately came back scared of the fast pull from Jaden. Well, not even really scared, more just reading it out. Jaden, in fact, going to be found on top of this main building. 4k3 so close right now. Merch can almost taste it. Has to play around this little 50 filler. It's not the best, but it is definitely there. Junior coming off the hook with the second wind. Is Merch just needs to win 150. Oh no, but however, Julian coming in, taking... What? Are we on the same planet, Merch? I know France is far from NA, but Jesus, how did that hit connect in a million hells? How did that even connect right through Julian, who's just now finding health again? And now Pop Eruption going to be going out into the most progress generator. I wonder, I believe more likely than not, Julian's gen over at 1 on the right side of main, excuse me, has been regressing this entire time, so that's all the progress. Unlucky Volt there. Gonna finally get rid of this pallet, making this bottom officially and dead zone right now. Momo balance landing into Shack. I will not be surprised if Merch even wants to leave this. However, gonna take this bite. Make sure we always have that power online. Super important in the Ghoul set, especially when our survivors are resetting as much as Team Petroleum is right now. Look at this Julian back on this generator, but again, Merch just simply too aware, and now in this 2v1, it's just gonna be a bit too little too late. What a stealth spot. What a stealth spot Julian chose for here. This is definitely unconventional. Being found here would be very bad. However, Merch understands that it's that 2-layered mind game. Merch knows that Julian doesn't want to get found stealthing, so but Julian knows that Merch knows. So Julian, in fact, takes a factually on paper worse hiding spot, but is able to find it. Is that going to be enough? Did he spot him? I believe he spotted him. Got that vantage point and was able to spot him. Knows Momo hasn't really had time to work on her gen very much, so quite eager to take his time here. Julian needs to win an ungodly amount of 50s to have any chance of doing anything significant. Julian now again getting zoned towards that Shack that has no pallet, nothing next to it. Merch just slightly overshooting that slingshot once more. Julian now forced on the short side to play the Shack window. Are we going to be able to get through it? No. Is the body block going to come through? No, it isn't. Merch surely might be even thinking about leaving right now. That's going to be the last ball, more likely than not. Tries the velocity slide onto the window again, however, simply just not able to get it right now. However, the window is finally blocked. We only have the edge filler to play. Julian unable to get the stun. Gonna be going down right now. Momo all the way on the other side, trying to pop this last generator. I don't think by my mental clock are we going to be able to get something like that going. Yeah, no, it was very close. In all fairness, it was very close. Momo almost got that. But wow, that's going to be a 4k3 for Merch. Just absolute domination through and through on the Ghoul, showing why that is his killer. Beautiful.
Yeah, I just have to agree. Merch just played that push and pull so well. You know, we talked about it before, we're talking about it again. Merged on this Ghoul, just the awareness of this map, playing around it perfectly. Committed on that Julian chase, lost a couple 50-50s at the Shack window at the end there, but I thought that might have been enough for the gen to actually end up popping, but no, the eruption on the gen. Merch knew, I just have to commit to this. I need to ensure that I get the explosion. This Julian still at the spot where they inevitably died. We'll end up getting the Mori here. Is 4k3. And something that we didn't touch on too much is that tunnel out on Kenshi. Kenshi tried to last so long, but Outer just kept getting cutoffs. Unfortunately, they kept getting bitten, so wasn't able to get the dead hard. But in that final chase, had one opportunity to finally get that dead hard. And I think because the crosswing didn't end up getting it, looked like I think we saw Kenshi even in the animation of it on top of that uphill filler next to Shack, but was not the case. But then once 3v1 started, Pop, Eruption, Grim Embrace, it's just, it requires a lot of mistakes from the killer to be able to pop another gen, and Outer almost didn't make any.
Yeah, I mean, that was just absolutely insane from Merch. It just over and over mechanical perfection. The only complaint I can give mechanically from one Ghoul player to another is that he slightly overshot a couple slingshots, but those are on the way. By the way, those can be in fact quite RNG. So even though you know what you might be doing. However, sometimes the game just overshoots it one side or the other. Happens, not even really Merch's fault realistically. So if just flawless gameplay by Merch on the Ghoul. It's like I'm watching Nightlight. It's like I'm watching the best Ghoul players ever. So I mean, that is just absolutely crazy. And I am now just getting word also that unfortunately there was a wrong offering on the side of Merch's killer. So Merch did bring in the wrong offering, so that's going to be a minus 0.5 hook stage penalty. And all that means in a 4K situation is that now, instead of the 4K3 being the tie condition for Team Petroleum's killer side, if they get a 4K3, that is simply going to be a win. So no 4K4 required for Momo or Momo Finesse on the Ghoul to get the win on this set, but even still asking for a 4K3 so much. Ghoul is one of the killers that is definitely able to very quickly snowball with the insane map pressure and chase potential when you have such good mechanics. And yeah, just look at this, look at that, look at that cutoff. That is so difficult to do with momentum. It's just it's just absolutely crazy. Again, I am impressed. That is the type of level of Ghoul that I aspire to be, and Merch has given me something to work on. So definitely insanely well played.
Yeah, and then especially getting that bite on Momo under main right here, just cutting all of the distance Momo would make through to that bounce line. That's why we jumped down there. Normally, you don't see anyone ever go down there in the trial, but immediately got that bite, got the leaps to be able to cut them off, to barely get this hit before we made it to that pallet gym in the bot mid. And then just pushing out, going to find Kenshi once again, doubling up on a gen, just immediately saying, well, I don't need Momo anymore. I have my tunnel out now, and taking it. Kenshi there tries to make it to that shack. Pallet already was used though, so just stuck at the windows. Doesn't have the dead hard to be able to be played. And just knows, yeah, nothing more that we can do in that situation other than play those 50-50s. But just so well played. Like you talked about the mechanics of Merch. Also, I was talking about the game sense earlier was such a high spot, but I mean, mechanically, almost a pristine game. Just every cutoff almost hit. I think there's only one or two that we slid off on Shack and then one in the main building. But, I mean, just so much good play here. Perfectly forcing the 50-50 and now, yeah, stuck. This is what I was talking about earlier, that 50. And look, we see Kenshi go into that dead hard animation for just a brief moment, leaning forward. But the cross ping matchup, Merch from EU, Kenshi from NA, just able to get that hit. That Kenshi had an idea. If they would have got that, also, we had Jaden lurking. I wonder if that was the play that was going to be made. Maybe also play 4 flashlight save Volkuz, as Nico coming in has the champion light flashlight, maybe also to take it down. This is our unbreakable survivor. I mean, if that dead hard comes through, this might be Kenshi dying at 2 gens instead of 4.
That is actually very well pointed out by you, Cyber. I did not notice that whatsoever. First, we were watching it. Thank God for this replay feature, so now we don't have to debate each other. We could just see it again. That is definitely what happened. And as much as I like the idea of making a bold play to try to bring it back after you have your first survivor ready to die at 4 gens, I also don't like it because it puts you even in a deeper pit if it doesn't work. So it is definitely not a conservative play. It is a high risk, high reward play. However, we only saw the risk side of it here. Whether it was the ping, whether it was a slight mistiming there, it is just very unfortunate. And Jaden also, we must say, not only was he in a decent position, there was no guarantee that rotation was going to be found by Merch. It just happened that Merch decided to go and explore that way. Didn't really have any way of knowing exactly what generator was being worked or where the rest of our survivors were, so simply happened to go that way, and Jaden was crossing, not really able to do anything. So regardless, very well played. Both sides. I think I mean, yeah, now that you pointed out and the more I think about it, that is actually could have been a game saving play, but again ended up losing them the game even harder. And I do wonder if that had not happened, if we started the 3v1 in a more neutral position, whether we were going to be able to at least see a natural 4K2. But yeah, the 4K3 brutal, which is now also going to be the win condition for Momo, who is getting ready shortly. We're in the lobby getting ready to load up on the Ghoul. And another great play here, as we are pointing out here. Thank you, Mathis, for the replay. That we are seeing the unbreakable being forced, even though normally that looks from outside in, that looks like a completely troll play. It looks like you have no idea what is going on. Why would both of you be there just to stop the grim embrace? Surely it's better to not have 2 slugs and just try to survive the 40 seconds of the Grim Embrace and just call it a day. However, no, if you have the Unbreakable there, that immediately becomes a much more intelligent play. So even though it was a very, very bad start and Merce was just dominating the early game, it is great to see that Team Petroleum had aces up their sleeve. They had plays to make. They didn't give up. They always tried to do something to make that game better for themselves. So even though it was a win for Merce, definitely hats off to Petroleum for not giving up, having the winner mentality to try until the bitter end.
And then we entered that 3v1 here. We had that full Grim Embrace onto Julian here. Looks like we were going to see a little bit more supporting coming through, but Merch able to barely swing around, pulling out the sniper rifle, getting the shot onto Jaden there, as that was a Death Hook survivor at that point, if I'm not mistaken. So that ended up forcing us into that 2v1 situation. I think also the timing of this just perfectly lined up. We got that hook stage, then we went over to Momoshun, which was pretty high progress to get that pop eruption. So just fully utilizing that Grim Embrace, full stacks timing there. But nonetheless, we are going back in, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, we are. I think you did say it was Momo on Killer. We are going to see Mercy on Survivor, as, yeah, Momo, a very confident killer, and a definitely different build is Momo. Something you'd pointed out, yeah, didn't opt for the pain res by Merged, and also went for a very kick forward build, where Momo, flipping the script entirely, went for pain res and full totems. So definitely looking for more chase flexibility, as wanting to not really have to worry about kicking the gens, just wanting to have the regression from the pain res, and then also let the Ruin and Wretched Fate do all that work for you. Is an early find here on the outer is going to be a very fast bite. It's going to be taking their distance into that mid map here. Looks like has the same pallet gym in bot mid, but is Momo going to end up spreading the pressure, just committing onto the survivor? It looks like committing is going to be the choice we end up going for here. Is outer dropping that pallet, vaulting over, has the life to be able to make it to the filler nearby, and actually looks like got a little greedy there. Had a couple pallets they could have made, but ended up choosing to go for the double pallet nearby, and ended up costing them. So that'll be a very fast early down on this trial. We do end up losing the Hex Undying for it, if I'm not mistaken. We have. So no Ruin lost yet. We do not have Wretched online, I think, until a generator pops. But this is a mid-map hook now, a very good position for Momo, right next to that main blade gen, right in the middle of all these bot mid-gens. This is a good start for going for such an insane result.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that was indecision or greed by Outer exactly, but whatever it was, he got him killed. And oh my god, we're right back on top of the unhook immediately, reading that timing perfectly. Bandit going to be getting bit for that, and now Momo choosing to go after Bandit, I believe. I'm not exactly so sure because of our spectator bug right now who the obsession is, and who that Wretched Fate will be getting placed over later. Maybe Momo knows something I don't. Bandit gonna be dropping this gold pallet, but it gets vaulted over. If you don't vault back, that is a pretty much guaranteed down there. Momo not even breaking the pallet here. Look at this little standoff we're playing over who is going to drop, who is going to pick up. But yeah, Momo going to be getting that pick up onto Bandit right now, opting to spread a little bit of pressure. That's perfectly fine game plan. I really like this build from Momo, especially with a win condition like this. Really allows him to use the full extent of Kanaki's potential to put that map pressure on, so he can go around the map, use the Ruin to regress the generators passively while he plays for these chases, as you mentioned. So now looking out the backside of main, looking for the savior, slingshotting all the way to this tower here. I believe this has an official name, I don't remember it, but yeah, the tower on this map that's guaranteed to spawn. Bandit goes out, and Outer has DC'd from the trial. I'm not sure if that is a that's a connection issue, or more likely than not, it seems very, very random. So a connection issue, more than likely we'll update you on what happens with that very shortly. But for now, we play on. Momo found another bite onto Robo, and gonna be breaking this Paladin. But if we play on from this is gonna be very catastrophic, as we're essentially starting at a 3v1 with 5 gens remaining. Quite the interesting position to be in. Please hold while we await word from our refs to see how this continues.
But nonetheless, it looks like we might be seeing a DC here. Yep, there goes Merch, there goes Vobo, and I would imagine Bandit shining the beam. Momo's not even taking that DC. Definitely an escape there for Bandit. I don't know what you think there, but looks like that is going to be all Trevor's DCing. I would imagine we're getting some sort of restart, whether that is a faulted restart. I'm unsure of as of right now if it was intentional or intentional DC like we were told to, or not. But either way, that was a pretty good start, and I will say, depending on what they do here, the one benefit 100% coming out of this is that Mercy knows it's full totems for Momo. Now, the totems are so crucial to Momo's playstyle here to just fully be able to push out, get these tags, and not have to worry about kicking these gens, instead just applying the pressure with those leaps, with those bites, and getting more pain reses. I mean, yeah, it's going to be intriguing to see. I wonder if we'll see the survivors hunting a little bit more off start for these hexes.
Yeah, that is just so unfortunate when you have a full totem build, and I don't believe Wretched Fate had even been showed off. I'm not. Maybe you can remind me, Cyber. Does Wretched Fate activate when the first gen pops, or does it activate on the first hook? I always get that mixed up.
I am 99% sure that is on the gen pop, and after a generator is completed. So yes, it is a generator completed. So if you 4K5, you played with 3 perks. That perk doesn't activate yet. So, but I mean, either way, we still that's still just such a good spot to be in a 4-hour killer. Like we said, we do not know who the obsession was in that trial, so that might have been why we split off from our initial tunnel out. We could have maybe committed to an outer, but nonetheless, here that is a very, very good spot for our killer to be in. Only had lost the Undying, still had Ruin available. So we'll have to see where things turn out. And on the contrary, though, I will say Momo has the information now of some of the perks of survivors. Specifically, I feel like the important ones are the anti-slug perks, like Plot Twist and Unbreakable, and also the exhaustions in Dead Hard, Sprint Burst, Lithe, Bounce Landing, etc.
Yeah, definitely a bit of a back and forth situation there, and we are getting word in right now that Outer's network, unfortunately, had indeed crashed and was playing up. And that might slightly explain also why we had that weird pathing at the beginning from him that looked like he was a bit indecisive or maybe a bit greedy. So that might simply have been the case there. Regardless, okay, so it's gonna be a restart here, of course. Still not 100% sure if we're going to be getting a fault or not for that. However, I believe simply because it is a network issue and those just happen, that's going to be a no fault. But as we just said, that's going to be definitely more info known for both of our sides. And yeah, that is going to be a no fault restart. Just got word in. So yeah, for sure, going to be no fault there in that situation. Now everybody knows each other's builds. So a different game will be played. However, maybe we will not have as fast of a down in that first situation, which is always unfortunate when something like this happens, especially when it's something out of a player's control. Not to, of course, say that any player would intentionally do something like this. I'm certain that would not happen. But when it is a network issue or a game crash issue or something of the sort, and the other team has the teams get an advantage over each other, they normally shouldn't have. It is slightly unfortunate. It does slightly spoil the spirit. However, our players here are professionals. They are very, very experienced. This has happened before. It just happens. It is one of those things. Everybody with a computer at home has experienced it. So it is definitely in the cards, and they will be continuing to play on professionally, respectfully. And yeah, I mean, some of you might like to DC versus the Ghoul over in your pub games. However, now that is not the case. That is not allowed normally here. But yeah, no fault, different situation. And I sure do wonder who is going to change their game plan more, because not only can you now our survivors know a bit more about how the forgive me, I'm not getting the word. The loadout
Killer?
could be, yes, there we go. The loadout could be for the killer, but now the killer also knows what anti-tunnel perks in this specific set, simply because we have anti-tunnel perks, what could be on each survivor. So definitely some cherry picking that could be done, and definitely some extra info that the survivors can also take into account before we load in again.
Yeah, absolutely is. Now, we're going to be going back in soon, but to talk about it, who is going to play differently more? I would imagine Momo. I feel like as a killer, generally speaking, killers are at the worst spot in this game, fundamentally. It's a 4v1. You can only do so much as one entity versus 4 survivors. And if they know that you're playing Hex Totems and they go for those early on, and Momo just lets that happen, pushes out, just gets some bites, but doesn't actually defend the totems, I mean, your mid to late game is just going to be absolutely tragic. Once you're out of pain reses, even if you only have Wretched Fate, maybe they get rid of Ruin and Undying, but you still hold on to Wretched Fate. That's just not enough realistically. As one survivor's probably just going to rotate around and go get resets on everyone, go for the unhooks. That's not really even going to punish them too much, or maybe just even be the survivor in chase. In that case, you're just getting no perk value whatsoever. You want that survivor to be doing generators, but yeah, I think that's probably more punishing to Momo, which is very unfortunate for them, as ideally they want to take this in a 2-0 fashion. As you know what, I think now is a perfect time to talk about it, Volkuz. If it does go to TB,
no.
We've ignored it for long enough.
Let's keep ignoring
Doctor Forgotten Ruins, we can't any longer.
Oh, don't say its name.
If it goes to TB now, that is, I mean, Static Blast is going to hit that entire map. It's going to be so much info. The filler pellets aren't too awful. There's not as many of them as you probably would like on that map, but they're decently chainable. You have a couple tiles around the map. I have no idea how you play that bottom floor versus Doctor. The height elevation makes it somewhat interesting to play around. This is going to be an absolute first for me. And I've even seen Forgotten Ruin sets, but just Doctor, I have no idea on that map.
Oh, Cyber, I fear you haven't played Forgotten Ruins recently. Have you seen the amount of filler pallets that spawn on that map? It is absolutely ridiculous. I'm not sure how long this has been the case for, but I remember specifically loading into a map like this, into this exact map just a few days ago and seeing just a full abundance of pallets. I was not playing Doctor, thankfully, but kind of like the Borgo, the Shattered Square. Definitely a lot of filler pallets that can spawn there. Yeah, as you said, Static Blast is definitely going to get a lot of value. There's going to be other implications, though. However, normally, one of the things that makes this map very, I don't want to say anticlimactic, I want to say an interesting situation, is that the killer never really has to leave the top side of the map, the upper floor. There is guaranteed to be at least 3 generators spawning on the top side of the map, so once you can simply play all your chases around there, keep pressure on, maybe especially if you have something like a Ruin in your back pocket, which is pretty decent for Doctor. So there could be the situation that you simply play around for chases on the upper floor, never really interact with the bottom floor, and just use the Ruin to slowly whittle it down. And if the Ruin especially spawns on the top floor, where you would be able to defend it, that would be a very precarious situation indeed. So our survivors will definitely be wanting to pop at least one of the upper floor generators first, so they don't have to deal with that situation, that 3-gen situation possibly arising later on in the future. But yeah, Doctor definitely going to be able to get a lot of info. I feel like the pallets and the tiles on that map can be pretty chainable, at least on the top side. The bottom side has predetermined pallet spawns that are not very chainable, so that's actually going to be a bit of a death sentence versus Doctor. However, on the top side, fillers back to back, filler into shack window, filler into tile, filler into filler very often. So Doctor on paper should have a hard time chasing on that map. However, experienced Doctor players, much more experienced than myself, are sure to have found or to be able to think up of a way that makes it a bit more beneficial for the killer.
I mean, yeah, you say there's a lot of filler pallets and they will struggle, but to be fair, these are 2 very experienced teams, and the Doctor map for the longest time was Wretched Shop, a map that just, you think about principally how many pallets are on that map, how many tiles, just how much stuff there is for Doctor to have to deal with, should be pretty bad as well. But, there's teams that surprise always. A shocking 4K, maybe just a very good mind game at a tile comes through, a bad hit tank. There's a million factors that could end up causing the downfall of the set. So I'm intrigued to see here is, playing that top floor. Doctor, though, like we said, though, isn't the strongest killer, just has that ability to static blast around these, or to shock around these pallets, static blast to get info. So definitely a lot of time, if these survivors double up and split the far gens on the top floor, I would imagine we're at least going to see one of them pop, is even if we are playing Corrupt Intervention, there's 4 gens up top, there's 3 gens down below in the dungeon. You can't get all the Corrupt top side. There's got to be something available for you work. So hopefully at least one of those gens pops so we don't have a huge 4-gen situation. But that's enough about Doctor, I'd say, Volkuz. We'll get there if we get there. That's enough. No more Forgotten Ruins talk. I think we are going back into our Ghoul set. I think it is still Momo going to be Momo on the Ghoul. I think, if I'm not mistaken, we do have a different survivor in the lobby, as Outer's Net was the one who went out. So I think it is Noah who is now going to be in the lineup, taking Outer's place. And, I mean, still going to be a difficult result for Momo, especially now with that info of the builds. Momo does have the info themselves, but we'll see how far that ends up getting them, as we are just about in here, Volkuz.
Yeah, no, that is absolutely fine here, and we're gonna be going back right now. So I am ready, and I'm very excited to maybe even not see the doctor. But alas, we have Team Mercy on the survivor side right now, as Momo. I can't imagine Momo's very happy going into this matchup. As we said, the unfortunate situations that occurred here earlier. But alas, let's see. Momo, I'm not sure if changing his build was an option. However, he does have the same build as before. And now, no corrupt. The survivors know it, so they can simply also get on a generator. Momo going to be looking for this early rotate. Hopefully, I really do hope Momo gets here a bit of an early down. So that maybe I don't know. I feel like I want him to feel a little bit better. That's just such an unfortunate situation. Gonna be able to get not the bite but just the tag right through. There we go. We get the power tag. Now gonna be in that enraged mode, getting the M1 right through that window. Merged coming up here, having to play this little pal on the crosswing. However, Bandit is there to drop it right on top of Momo's face. Very, very crucial right there. Momo gonna be unable to go around and get this bite here. Not quite sure what he was doing there, just opted to break the pallet for now. That Ruin is eating away at the gen. He's still okay in this early game. Just wants to find out where everybody has rotated. Get a full bite. Oh no, there we go. Perfect. He's able to get that going through. And we see, of course, Outer not being here. Noah has been subbed in for Outer simply because Outer's internet is not able to handle the game at the moment. Are we going to get that vault? Is it going to be enough? Can Momo get anything from this? Has managed to force Noah to rotate onto the backside. Tries to swing through the hole. Is not able to get in. That is a gigantic loss of momentum right now as Noah gets away from that scot-free. The first down being delayed even more. Tries to get the cutoff and body block the window, but is not going to be able to do it. Not going to have a huge cooldown on his power. Having to play the Ormond tile against one of the best 1v1 players in the world. Is Noah able to last for long enough to pop that first generator? Vobo getting close. So I did see another survivor here. I think Bandit, the altruist of the team right now, coming in to try to help this first stage last for as long as possible. There's the first gen. Momo now going to be swinging away from Noah and switching his sights onto onto Bandit, excuse me, who has quite a nice setup here to play some linked filler pallets. This is not customary for this map. Momo gonna be whiffing that swing. This is so sad for Momo right now. Is he gonna be able to get this down? No, she needs this to connect to finally get it down on the board, and that is just so difficult right now. Cyber, that is not the early game Momo wanted to see, especially after last time.
Yeah, I'll say to update the people, there has been a slight shift. I'm not 100% if it was another penalty taken or what, but the win con has changed. Momo now, a 4K2 is a tie, is what I've been told. So, basically, the equivalent of another generator getting popped in that previous trial now. No longer the hook stages. So, Merch going to be the survivor we commit to at check. So, a little bit more leniency for Momo here. Can afford to let one more gen go. Oh, already losing that Ruin and dying is pretty unfortunate, but a good mind game by Momo is going to result in Merch vaulting over that window at an unfortunate time, getting down inside of the shack. We do see Bandit come off that hook and immediately get that reset, so all survivors healthy once again. Momo looks like going to be greeting here to that mid-map, wants to get that pain res, and I think is going to be able to make it, or actually took a little bit of a rough pathing. It's going to be close, but no, I think that was only 9 grunts if my count was right. So Bandit, or not Bandit, sorry, Merch knocking a little bit off that shoulder. But there is Bandit, as we don't get the full bite on that, but instead just the re-enrage here to have those 3 dashes. Merch going to come off of that hook. We see Noah cranking those gens right now. Momo just holding his pallet. Gonna be look at that short swing through a Bandit injured once again. Now we have the leaps to be able to go up a floor. It looks like immediately just going to fatiguing this. We want to play the M1 at this pallet right now. Bandit just playing these 50-50s. Bandit, the absolute thief here, stealing away that. Going to end up faking, going up the stairs. Tried to double back, but Momo fatigued at the perfect time to be able to cut that off. We did not have the God pallet above us, so that will just be a second stage for Bandit right now. But Noah going to end up popping this gen right now. Looks like Momo maybe was considering going up there, but doesn't end up choosing to. Is Noah going to be spotted here, popping that gen kind of in Momo's face right now. Leaping away, 1 leap, 2, 3. That'll be the bite onto Noah right now. Is Momo, though, it's been a minute since we've checked on that gen progression. We need to go look and see what our survivors have progress on.
Yeah, Momo here in a difficult situation right now. Was not able to stop Noah from popping that generator by getting the hook, and is not able to interrupt that one either. Still able to get a tie right now. 4K2 Tycoon after our penalties when everything was sorted out here in the background. Momo needs to move and tie to keep as much gen control while also accelerating this tunnel out onto Bandit. If he finds the rotation for the unhook right now, that would be absolutely huge. That is exactly what he needs. Knows Noah must have gone back towards the shack here to try to stay safe. Bandit does get unhooked, but Momo just used his power and is not in a position to try to get back for it. Looks like there might have been even a resurgence on Bandit, as now he's safe and sound, and Noah is just live. Demon going to be able to get right back to shack and stop the chase from continuing. Gets to drop that shack pallet, and now Momo, of course, has to break, and Momo really needs to hurry up right now, needs to confirm this down immediately, and I'm not even sure if this down will do too much for him in the end, even if Noah gets down and hooked here, all we can hope for is a pain res. We do have the Wretched Fate still going on to Vobo, I believe, unless I just got cleansed and I did another caster curse. However, if that is the case, that is even worse for Momo. If not, at least we still have something in the background to keep the regression afloat, while Momo desperately needs to find Bandit now, get down to this 3v1 and try to stop another generator from popping, but it's looking difficult. Yeah, that is the Wretched Fate gone, actually. So yeah, Vobo able to perform as a normal survivor right now. No progression repair penalty. Momo finds somebody on the backside, but doesn't have the enraged to use that real Ghoul mobility right now. It's looking very difficult. Even if we're able to get the tunnel onto Bandit right now, I'm not exactly sure how the game would even progress from here, as Team Mercy would be looking comfortable in this 3v1. We're able to find Bobo. We're gonna get a tag for this, but yeah, we simply cannot commit. We need to go. We need a huge snowball here, maybe 2 slugs. Something needs to happen. There is, of course, Unbreakable in play also, so it's just going to be very uphill for Momo for now. No eruption also for this 3v1. Only has that 1 stack of pain res, and apart from that, it's just dry kicks all the way, Cyber.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult. We hear merged around here, but we know we can't commit to searching for too long, as these gens are so split. We have main building, we have shack, and we have that silo gen all so far from each other. And this shack gen has 3 pistons pumping right now. We know a survivor is standing here. Looks like Momo might be waiting, end up DCing. Don't know if that was why we were DCing that, if that was forfeit or whatnot, but I would imagine we were at the TyCon, the gens hit a lot of prog. I would envision that is Mercy taking that set, but I'm not 100% confirmed. You take that with a grain of salt, but that could mean Volkuz. We get to go to Forgotten Ruins.
Stop this at once. Stop this madness. This lunacy needs to end immediately. But yeah, I'm not exactly sure what has happened there. We will be looking forward to the doctor in the Forgotten Ruins. That'll definitely be something interesting for everybody at home to watch. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think that was a full mental problem on Momo's side. I know that sounds bad when I phrase it like that, but what I mean is that Momo's mental simply could not keep up really with that restart. Didn't get into the restarted game with the best idea of how to accomplish what he needs to set out to accomplish, even with a slightly relaxed position, even with the slightly relaxed TyCon. It still proved to be a little bit too difficult. Of course, Team Mercy realized how they wanted to play it from the beginning. They had Bandit of the Altruism, they had the Hexes in their sights, so it was just an unfortunate situation over here, especially after Mish's domination on Ghoul. I was really looking forward to see Momo try to clap back and answer with some great Ghoul plays of his own. However, it started like it looked like it was going to start that way. However, it was just not the case in the end for how things went. Unfortunate. What can you do? But yeah, now we can look forward into the future for the Doctor. And we spoke about it a little bit previously. I know maybe some of our other more experienced players might already have some ideas in mind of how they would approach the Forgotten Ruins Doctor. Is definitely going to be an interesting set, and that is one of the risks you run when bringing unique maps into the killer pool. You run into a situation where you don't know exactly what is going to be played out, how you would approach the set from a macro perspective in terms of how you would like to interact with the map and how you would want to chase specifically on the map. So both macro and micro change significantly, especially on a map that's so unique, has the unique portal teleporting mechanic, and it also has this dichotomy of top and bottom floors for them to look forward to. What kind of build would you bring as the Doctor here, Cyber? Because I think a little bit of Ruin would definitely pay off very well, as Doctor can be advantaged from that. But I'm also not sure how I would approach this, so please give me some insight.
Oh, I I would agree with you. Ruin definitely is good. I think that the necessities that I would be just astonished not to see. Corrupt Intervention still. I think Corrupt is still so good, especially if you can get a lot of your Corrupt on that top side. There's a chance you can hold those gens. You could try to play more defensive towards your one open gen, because obviously that is where you realistically want to be playing as Doctor, is on that top floor and avoiding that bottom floor for most of the part at all costs. Ruin would be very strong. Pain Res could be kind of gamble, as it's almost like indoors where you think of it as and Pain Res on indoors is always a bit iffy because there's chances where you get hook setups where just because of how the rooms are laid out or whatever, they're nowhere close. And you could kind of have a similar situation where if you want to play one floor, the other floor just has 3 out of 4 of your Pain Reses, and the last one's just on the complete opposite side of the top floor that you want. So could just be a tragic sight. Sloppy Butcher or something like Rapid Brutality are always good, just normal M1 perks. Wouldn't be too surprised to see those. If we want, we could just see a full depletion idea be played if we want to go something like Brutal Strength. You know, you talked about how there's a lot more pallets on this map now on the top floor. If our killers end up just saying, hey, I'm just going to accept this, understand that my first chase is going to be a kind of a tragic sight. The game's the game sometimes, but just get rid of these pallets and then set yourself up for that late game where you can hold those gens, and survivors really shouldn't have too much they can do about just eating tags coming to that end game where you can hold a 3, maybe 4 gen. But I don't know here. I think I'm agreeing with you, especially with the Static Blast. Full totems, or at least Ruin, feels like the way to go. But normally when you play Ruin, you end up going a totem heavy build in general with Undying, maybe Devour, maybe Wretched, something along those lines.
Tell you what, I feel like Ruin, Undying, Penti could be quite a significant. I would be lying to you if I said that I know off the top of my head whether we allow Penti in this set. However, if Hex Pentimento is allowed, it would definitely be a very, very sizable advantage, simply because, again, because of the Static Blast and because of the Madness tiers and the proximity of that map, you can't really get away with not cleansing Ruin. So having the Pentimento then on top of that, the only problem would be you then also have to know about the totem spawns on that map. I am not really sure I'm just not really sure how the totems end up being on that map, whether they can spawn both on bottom, whether you have one top, one bottom. If they're top, they're kind of out in the open. If they're bottom, they might be a bit too well hidden. But just going mentally through and walking through that map in my head, I'm trying to remember some totem spots, and not really many come to mind. Thankfully, it's not a map that I am usually subjective to being mostly comp playing more in the custom games rather than public games. We do not tend to end up on that map. But again, we did mention it, but I do want to touch on it again briefly. The fact that one of the most interesting things that we here at Revival will be sort of want to show everybody in the world is how these top players will adapt to sudden changes in balancing and maps and things that are just usually not so standard. They can be influenced more. They're just not your standard, the practice, the one thing that you can go back to, the classic, the all reliable. You know how to play on certain maps. You know what your game plan is. In the beginning, I don't even know why Doctor's on Wretched Shop in most games, but that's a different conversation for us to have, as now we are getting ready to load in on our very, very first Doctor game right now. And yeah, I am surprised and waiting to be surprised. I'm very interested to see how this will unfold. Just more than anything game plan wise, the Doctor micro is kind of the same. Of course, depending on the positions of fillers and tiles, you have to play it a little bit differently. However, the macro is for sure what is going to be the most interesting part. So please make sure you pay close attention as we're now getting ready to load in.
Yes, we are Forgotten Ruins. Gonna be the map of choice here. Is Vobo, Noah, Bandit merged on Survivor. Then we got Jaden on Killer. And yeah, look at that. Full totems here. We've got the Ruin. We've got the Undying. We've got the Devourer. We've got the Wretched. As looks like now going to be getting that Static Blast and hitting everyone. This is what we talked about. All of the survivors taking their first tier of madness. We have the Undying info around the shack here. It's Jade now just going to have this first chase. It looks like with Vobo, we do end up making that window here. Shack is a pretty standard shape, so our survivors obviously going to be decently confident in how they want to play this versus Doctor, but looks like Bandit and Vobo going to be looping with friends just a little bit here as Bandit, the survivor, we end up going for is a flare there around the shack. Looks like we're just gonna end up greeting this here. We do have a filler pallet nearby, and we do get the shock, but Bandit able to get the drop just in time here. Jaden, mind gaming around this. 1 Volt gonna be used. Picking it back up. That is the wide open throttle. That is that pallet. Out of commission, though, for 1 minute, though. Fully blocked off. Is Bandit gonna be able to make it back towards the shack here? Do we have any supporting in to possibly drop that shack pallet for us? And I do not think so. As, yeah, this pallet's still blocked, Bandit. You did that yourself. That is your own actions causing that pallet to be no longer available. The static blast going to be used once again here. Bandit pushed into that tier 3 Vobo. We do have some support here if we do end up choosing to play for it. This Bandit now just chaining this in the shack beautifully. Looks like is going to end up making that window, but I think we saw Jaden turned around and ended up going for Vobo a little bit. And we're just going to be fully safe here at the shack. Vobo taking that injury. We have no Sloppy Butcher, no Rapid Brutality, so nothing to help us with the speed, nothing to slow down these resets in any way. Now, just shocking around this pallet. Jaden gonna be just continuing to keep on to this. No gens popped thus far right now, as we are gonna end up getting the drop here on this filler pallet, but just continuing the shock. TNL to chain into it, but I think Vobo's time might not be long for this roller. So I think that was a Hex Totem we just ran past, but it does not matter as we are able to get that down, and that is the first gen popping, but specifically 2 bottom floor gens. We still have our 4 gen top to play here, Volkuz.
We most certainly do, and I'm actually interested to see why Jaden chose to switch onto Vobo, saying as Vobo is the obsession. If we do have that Wretched Fate, so I understand that Bandit was indeed at the shack, so that is obviously something you usually don't want to commit to a chase at the shack. You expect it to last for a little bit longer, as that is a safe structure. Even though the Doctor can do a pretty good job about playing it compared to most killers, I'm guessing simply we did not want to take that risk. But now Jaden in a situation where Vobo is on hook and that Wretched Fate is not getting any value until he goes off of that hook and tries to get on a generator. We're going to be trying to stay away right now and keep the Devour Hope dreams alive. And the problem is right now, what the idea is, I think if our survivors have counted the amount of totems they have seen, they will realize there is 1 hex perk unaccounted for. However, Jaden in fact didn't even choose to try to get the stack. In fact, wanted to go back, try to get a tag onto Bandit for that instead of playing for the Devour Hope stack. Not quite sure if that's going to pay off for him in the long run, as these chases are going to be difficult. And look at this, look how well Bandit is playing this, holding his distance around the long side of that object, winning the send on that filler pallet, making it back into the shack. Does he have enough distance to make something else? However, Jaden thought he might be camping the shack pallet to drop it last second. Bandit had no intention of doing that whatsoever. 1 hex totem, I believe we heard come away. Noah coming in to take the hit. Also great altruism from Team Mercy, as now Bandit is long gone. Static Blast going to be tearing him up into tier 3, buying a few extra seconds, but we don't leave. We're in fact staying on to Bandit right now, who is not getting shocked, manages to juke the shock there, doesn't even want to drop this insanely strong filler pallet, and is going to be going down for it finally. Very well played there from Bandit. And wow, yeah, even though we might not play on this map often, we definitely see the experience coming through with Bandit's chase, and that is just so much pressure right now for Team Mercy. We have at least 2 people we know that have been on the generator. We can see off in the corner that something's getting stacked bottom. However, Jaden doesn't really need to be scared just yet. All he needs to do is be in a situation when he can hold these top gens, even though they might be slightly apart. We do have a nasty 3 gen around Bandit's hook, so he can still be happy with this, but again, really needs to be careful to not let it slip away from him.
Yeah, and looks like we are going to end up pushing down towards this bottom floor here, entering up in the torture chamber, as it is going to be Merch playing 50-50s around this pallet. Does end up losing them. Jaden getting that injury onto that survivor here. So I think we're hoping the unhook does come through very soon, just to try to start getting these Devour stacks online, as Merch is going to be forced to that top floor. Always a bit risky, as this is the 4 gem we left up, so you want to try not to die here as much as possible. Unhook does come through, but Merch now just playing around this pallet. Looks like might have greeted a little bit too long, as 1 more shock I think is all it's going to take. But no, we have a survivor coming in here for a hit tank. This will be Vobo coming in to try to support Merch, as hit gonna come through right now. Vobo does already have a stage on them, but that is the duty of care. Taking that supportive hit is getting both those survivors a little bit more haste to get some distance towards the shack, where we have this insane pallet setup. So now Merged away, scot-free. Vobo gonna end up dropping that filler above shack. But can Vobo make this last tier? Just wrapping around this generator, trying to buy as much time as possible. Now we see the information on the survivor check. All survivors are injured right now. Reset is coming through right now, as this is possible. Pouch up coming in. Yes, it is even injured. Team Mercy is playing for the support. That'll be a pallet drop on shack, buying even more time. Bandit and Noah getting that reset right now. Going to try to be healthy, maybe to come in for more hit tanks soon. But looks like our survivors are double rotating to the back of main building. One of them can go in that portal, but if they both try to, one of them is surely meeting their demise. And Vobo said, I will be going merged. Does end up barely making it through in time. Not getting grabbed off that is insane. Is even dropping that bottom floor pallet. Going to be able to make even more distance to library. And this has just been an insane chase, Volkuz.
Insane chase from Merch coming through. I would expect Vobo to be more willing to take this down, as having the Wretched Fate survivor being the one on hook is not as bad as having Merch there. But Jaden, realizes that has gone on for too long and he stepped away for his gens. Knows that a lot of resets have come through though, so he's not expecting to see too much gen progress. He's able to find Bandit here, I believe, who is in that tier 3 still. Vobo now also, of course, now everybody resets, so Vobo could come in again, offer himself up as a sacrificial lamb, or try to make something happen that way. We did also see that we have counterforce on the builds also, so these hex totems might not be long for this world. However, I believe Bandit was the one with counterforce, so him being in chase right now will not be ideal if we're trying to get rid of all the totems. No, forgive me, apparently it was not my mistake. I did see it somewhere, but it was not Bandit. So perfectly fine here. Bandit going to be continuing this chase, been playing them incredibly well. And I think Jaden has just been caught a bit off guard by what this map can really do. As we said in the pregame, a lot of links can happen in this map, and it makes it very, very difficult. Bandit going to be taking that first hit. We did see somebody else coming from the sidelines. Not sure who that was. Maybe somebody else here ready to take a hit. Looks like Team Mercy is playing for this 2 stage. They do not want to give out anything more than they have to. Bandit now going to need to use this time to snap out of it, and that's going to do exactly that, as now Mercy comes in, takes the hit. We do not want to be dying on this top side of the map. We need to die at least behind main to get this region out of the way, or try to take our chase towards the bottom floor would be most ideal. And another such a strong filler paladin. Look at this. Vobo is still here to help Merch take a good hit, to take a good hit for Merch, so that he can, in fact, both of them can now make the bottom floor, whether via the teleporter or at least get to behind main. But however, that generator is being worked on, so Merch coming here is a gamble. What a gamble, expecting Jaden to go for a different survivor, and we do in fact find Vobo. Again, this is a Wretched Fate survivor, so no real slowdown happening in this game right now. I'm gonna use that Static Blast, gonna get 3 tier 3s on the board. Crucial seconds being bought here around this high progress generator. We need to win this against Vobo, and we do manage to. Vobo gonna be going down right now, as everybody else has to play around getting off that tier 3 and getting back to this generator when Vobo is undoubtedly going to be hooked in the near vicinity. And oh my god, there is just so much going on in this game right now, Cyber. We have good chases, we have pressure, we have perks being used. What a stage we have set up here for our players.
I was gonna say exactly that. This has been such an interesting duality of set, as it feels like Jaden has been on top of these survivors all game. They are constantly injured, having to get resets, having to snap out of it. You know, they've just had so much pressure on them, but only 3 stages have been gained. The survivors' chases are lasting so long. They are getting that support off. Specifically, I think the star of it has to be Vobo's. Taken multiple hits for chases now, gotten duty of care off multiple times. Looks like going through that portal a little bit late there. Noah going to be stuck stranded here at this edge map filler pallet. Will be taking that hit, I imagine, now going to be taking their distance towards that portal back main, as I don't think you can shock out of that animation, so I don't think the shock really does anything, but push Noah deeper into tier 3, as it looks like we instead are going to venture out. We spot 2 injured survivors here, everyone injured. This is going to be Bandit, and I couldn't tell who that other survivor was. I think it might have been merged, but Bandit, once again, I think this is the 4th time we've gotten this perk value. Wide open throttle, vaulting over these drop pallets, giving that little bit of haste to be able to make it to another nearby filler, has actually been underrated very much in this trial, as now going to be going down. It's been keeping their top side pallets, very active, I'll say, as they've picked up, I think, 4 of them this trial. The one around Shack has been done a couple times. Looks like we're going to be just getting that full reset on all of our survivors here, as Bandit going to be on that death hook, kicking this gen, but no other perks really to be played. It is just that Wretched Fate left, so we're trying to leave Vobo up for that to make sure we buy as much time with that as possible. But all survivors healed. Jaden now just going to be doing the depletion, as actually I'm a little mistaken. We do have a second Hexon up. We still have that Devour, so there actually is a bit of an angle Jaden can play in this game. Wants to camp this, obviously, defend the gen. Ideally, if you can force Bandit to slip into the death hook here, that would be perfect. But I wonder if we're going to see Jaden push out, let this unhook come through to get that 3rd Devour stack, to be able to get that exposed down on someone here. as it looks like no one spotted just yet. All the survivors have to, I imagine, be pushing up towards the top side. Static Blast going to be used, getting info on basically everyone in this trial now, as looks like Vobo is the one who's currently pushing in alongside Noah. Both those survivors diving closer. Maybe we'll see a double save end up coming through here, as now we're just shocking. We're trying to put these survivors in the tier 3. Noah already in tier 3. Vobo now in the same fate, but Jaden, you can't permanently shock this. They did have a change this, but looks like Noah actually ends up trading. The double save doesn't come through, and now Noah on the floor. I think we're just gonna have taking this hook stage. This will be our 5th of the trial, 3rd fresh overall, but we're gonna try to carry this a little bit closer to the active gens, Volkuz.
But not only are we now getting the trade onto Noah, we can afford to break off of this and try to commit another survivor. If we end the chase far enough away, like all good survivors should, never get slugged under a hook teammate, maybe even a tunnel out of the bandit if we're lucky enough, we will be coming back to a fully charged, well, I say fully, partially charged 3-stack Devour Hope, which will allow for those juicy exposed downs to really accelerate how many stages we're getting. Here it is. We have 3 stages here. Are they going to be expecting it? Have they been able to count the hex totems? Are they going to be ready for it? Vobo here on Death Hook. Wretched Fate survivor needs to last. It's going to be quite difficult. Are we going to be able to secure this down in a timely fashion? We have a lot of progress being on the other side of the map. However, yeah, Jaden realizes that the progress is only going up and up. He can't really afford to stay there forever. And as you said, Cyber, wide open Thordo has done so much. When you want to keep your generators on the top side of the map, and then you have wide open Throttle, just keeping those resources there. And this pallet, this pallet is ridiculous. Oh my god, I've never really quite grasped the scale of how big this filler pallet here is, and it leads into the Mesa, the composite tile. So difficult. We see a Hex Totem being cleansed. Are they going to figure out that that's the Devourer? Is that the case? Is Jaden going to go check? I feel like there is so many moving parts in this game right now. Are we going to get the cleanse through? We do end up getting the cleanse through. Vobo finally cleansing that. Which one was it?
I think it was Wretched.
Was it Wretched?
I think so. Wretched's no longer lit up. Devour, I don't think lights up unless you have it currently active. We do not. The survivors are currently unaware of the exposed status effect. We do not have the haste. Wretched is offline now. There is one more totem on that bottom floor of the map. Merged in this chase. All survivors healthy, but I don't know if healthy is going to matter. Is Jaden just shocking around this tile. One more shock, I think, might be able to do it. If that survivor is not able to make the window, now is the moment. Did we get the Devour? No, we did not. That is our final totem active. It is on the bottom floor of the map. And Jaden, this is feast or famine moment now. Survivors know the final perk, the exposed Devour. We need to try to find them. We need to snowball into a slug out here if we want to try to get a 4K angle at this, playing this M1. Jaden brought into this team kind of as somewhat of a specialist, you could say, with these M1 killers. Plays the Wraith, plays the Doctor, and that is a second down. Noah is also here, and Jaden wants more. He wants another slug. Looks like shocking this endgame filler, but that is the final gen popping. But Noah now on the floor. Vobo, this game is on your shoulders. The pickup comes through. 2 survivors on their feet once again, as this is an explosive endgame, Volkuz.
Insane endgame. Indeed, we were able to get that Devour value. We're not quite able to grasp out that 4K0 just yet, though it might be the case. We need to get Vobo down, and we need to get him down right now. Are we going to be able to? I don't believe we can open gates while in tier 3, so if we're able to get a couple tier 3s going, Mersh was in fact in that state, but now gotten off. I don't feel like Jaden is confident enough that he's going to be able to get that, but he still knows that the Hex Totem is still up, and the gates have not been worked just yet. These scratch marks might be leading you astray. You need to be careful. If you're Jaden here, you want to at least get merged. If you can't get that 4K0, you want to at least get merged here. Worth the most stages, but no, Jaden gonna be too tunnel visioned by the scratch marks. Merch is gonna be able to open the gate, and that looks like it's gonna be 8 stages, 3 fresh, 4. I mean, they can try to play this ball, but with Devour active, that's gonna be a bit difficult.
I was going to say, Vobo's on the bottom floor. We saw that portal got used. Came out the portal on the top side. It's going to be close. We have the haste, the 5% coming off that hook. Are we going to make it in time? It's going to be very close. That haste, do we get the swing? No, we do not. Hit coming through right at the end of the exit gate line. I was going to say, yeah, Vobo going to the bottom floor. Almost a little too close there, but the survivors, that was a roller coaster of a trial bowl because so much hit tank supporting coming in. Then the end game, the Devour Hope, 3 survivors on the floor. And we even see we had that map, but the totems just weren't cleansed for so long. We also had the counterforce, like you had said, that was Noah in that trial who ended up getting it. But wow, I cannot believe Devour lasted as long. got the expose right when it mattered, and Jaden, just so close to converting that to a full 4 slug.
That was just such high octane game through and through. Again, I think I said this before when we were playing our very first set on the Oni, but I feel like I've just run a marathon right now. It's so intense to see these games just go from hit tank to gen pressure to hex pressure to decision making needing to be done on the fly to excellent chases being held all around. Bandit great job on the chases, Vobo great job on the altruism, Merce great job on the chases. Just everybody had a little piece of heaven with them today. They had something to play for, and they did exactly that. Team Mercy, even though 8 stages is quite a lot of stages, not even giving that 4K0, they should feel happy about that here today. They played this so cleanly as well. Again, just the chases, the altruism, even though they're not familiar with this map, and I'm certain they haven't really practiced for this specific set, being able to come out and give out only the 8 stages in a situation where 4K0 was looking almost unavoidable is great coordination. If the Devour Hope had gone earlier, then we would have had a very different game. We could have been looking at a low stages game for sure, maybe even 5-6 stages all across the board. However, that was not the case. Again, even though Team Mercy must feel happy about the performance, I am sure Jaden is not too upset either. Yes, the 4K0 was definitely on the table, maybe even something a little bit better if we didn't get slightly baited by the scratch marks, maybe if we let Vobo get a bit more time out instead of playing for the hook on him and letting that Wretched Fate do its work. Maybe we had a chance even at a 4K1. The gen setup was there. But honestly, in Jaden's shoes, I don't even know how you would approach getting a better result. There's just so much going on. There's a lot you have to pay attention to. The wide open throttle kept resetting those pesky filler palettes that keep linking into each other on this map. And while having to play also around the teleports, there's just such a plethora of different gameplay mechanics that you need to consider that you normally wouldn't have to. And yeah, I think Jaden did a great job, but Mercy really grasped my heart with how delicately, but also how decisively they played this entire game, Cyber.
Yeah, absolutely is. I talked about it in the trial a little bit. It felt like Jaden was on top of these survivors at almost all points, except for a little moment at the end where they got full reset, I think, on everyone. We were just pushing the gens a little bit. No one was really being pressured in those moments. But yeah, it felt like we were constantly harassing these survivors, but the survivors just kept coming in. A reset would come through, a hit tank, then someone dropped the pallet, duty of care, wide open throw. Like there was so much just happening at all points in that game. It felt like you never could take a breath at any moment. As even here at the end game, now we have everyone exposed. We even have the 2 survivors, and we could have taken the hit on the no right there and then also stayed on the bandit, but we don't. We secure bandit first. That is the survivor down, then we switched our eyes onto Noah. We see the scream of the survivor on the ground over there, so we know that is where our slug currently was, but we didn't know where Vobo was. Noah made it far enough away and deep enough into that corner to buy us time for that gen pop. If that gen just would have popped a little bit sooner, or maybe if we just rotated for that pickup, we might not have even gotten us all the gens done, as we would have just played with that last gen remaining while the full expose is up. So definitely a good call there to just commit, guarantee the pop no matter what, to allow your survivors to inevitably split off there. But yeah, just such a roller coaster. And I'm sure in his chair, Mathis is very happy. Mathis's goal at the balance, as far as I'm aware, is 6-10. That was 8 stages 3 fresh. That's got to be the pristine spot Mathis is hoping for.
Oh, yeah.
This was all part of the plan. Mathis got to be happy with that one.
No, Mathis, don't speak. We need to talk to you as if you're not here, okay? We got to talk about you, all right? Okay?
All right, sorry. I'm not
here. But yeah, no, definitely. Again, we're throwing our players in deep waters. We're challenging them to come up with things on the spot. What I sure do wonder now is, did the killer player for Team Mercy understand the situation that they could potentially find themselves in? Do they know what builds they have available to them? Can they make something similar happen? In terms of getting a hex build playing in? Are they gonna have the foresight to know that a hex build is actually gonna be this good on this map? Because I think that's fantastic value that we got overall. Even though if the Ruin Undying had lasted for any longer, that would be just next level. But still, the Wretched Fate got value. The Devour definitely got value. I was sure do wonder if, more likely than not merged, has figured out that that this is going to be a possible play, something worth playing around, or did he not quite take a good of a look and have a bit more of a reserved, more standard build that I don't think on this map a painless pop eruption or something of the sort is going to be able to get 8 stages. We need to see a lot of lack of communication and coordination from PTR that I don't really expect to see. So yeah, I mean, interesting spot to be. Especially when we're in a league where we have slightly different rule set. You need to have definitely read up on it, be prepared, and know what the best tools at your disposal are. As we spoke about it earlier, Cyber, right before the game started, we all called out that hex storms would be absolutely insane on this map, and they ended up training to be. So I do wonder if Merch has had a similar idea in the meantime.
Yeah, I don't know. The builds were pre-submitted, so we can't take away from that performance and be changing our build, letting that match affect our decision making. So it would have had to been, like you said, read up on those rules before, had to have that foresight to be aware of what doctor really can get the most value of. As yeah, it's such a different map, such a different idea of how you want to take this. As normal doctor sets, you kind of just expect to not get much, Doctor on Wretched Shop on Dead Sands, you really struggle to get these down survivors can cross the map very easily, to where up here you have a little bit more of it's almost like a choke map, but not a choke map in terms of top and bottom side like your normal suffocation pit, your Azerov's resting place. Choke map in terms of the floors, where even on like the 2-floor maps like Midwich in the game, you don't even get that really opportunity as there's so much ways up and down. But yeah, nonetheless, we are going in to what could be our final trial here. It is Merched piloting the doctor. We have Jaden, Julian, Momo, and Kenshi on Survivor. As we do have Ruin, but we have the Corrupt Intervention, we have the Pain Res, and we have the Sloppy Butcher. So a little bit more traditional, I would say. Oh my, but look at that totem positioning, Volkuz. That is just perfect top mid placement.
I saw that immediately as we loaded in, and my heart just sank ever so slightly, as I just got done saying that a normal build might not cut it on this map. And we find not only do we have the Ruin, which will definitely should have gone in value, but it's so in plain sight right now. Regardless, Merch is just something he's going to have to live with as he tries to find an... Oh, that is heartbreaking. Momo able to get the cleanse. We're starting off this game with 3 perks, no Ruin. Oi, 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 that definitely, and the Ruin is not simply because of its standard effect, it's especially on the Doctor, it takes away a lot of that static blast value and takes away a lot of that tier 3 value now that it's gone. If it had been there while you're in tier 3, of course, that would be a good free 10-15 seconds of regression, and then you would have a very good also static blast ability to just be like, okay, if I get enough people into tier 3, I can have some guaranteed regression going. That's not going to be the case now. However, Merch definitely heartbroken, but of course is going to soldier on as he tries desperately to find this very first tag. I don't think the Doctor Shock interrupts you from taking the teleport. I'm not certain, I haven't tested it out, but I would intuitively, I think that's not the case. Jaden hopping the locker instead of dropping the pallet. However, thankfully he's not getting out of that locker. He's not getting picked out of that locker to give an instant down. But we don't know what we have on this map, so Jaden is not able to take the optimal path to find a resource, and that is definitely gonna hurt. Okay, now Merched is slightly in a bit of a better position right now, able to get a pretty fast down after the survivors used the early game to rotate, get rid of the Ruin, and cleanse those tier 3s as they came up. So even though it has been a few minutes since the start, it's not going to be that bad for Merch's early game. The question is now, how can he keep it up? And he needs to play for 9 stages or 8-4. So he definitely doesn't have an easy task ahead of him. This is, for Doctor, it should be very difficult, but I fully believe in Merched. For now, he's just going to camp out this hook, does not want to give any free pulls, especially when you get a relatively early down. It's very important that you're able to establish pressure, but however, while this is happening, those top side gens might be getting worked, and if they pop, then your late game is in a predicament. So, a lot to think about if you're Merch right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually don't hate this. The fact that we lost the Ruin, we have it down in the central part of the bottom floor. We know we forced Kenshi, who was the person playing for that unhook, up towards that top floor. Static Blast going to be used. We know now. No one is down here. Merched only has to do exactly this. This is what makes the bottom floor of this map painful. As Merched can literally keep their camera, you'll see that portal open before they come to the bottom floor, and you can just watch the stairs. There's no other way down here. As Merch now probably going to walk up the second, or maybe take a portal the second we hit second stage. That first gen does end up popping. We have 2 separate gens, both about 50%. And I think right now our whole goal is just going to be to maybe camp this to full death, or go upstairs, force someone off a gen, and then come back the second the unhook comes through. But no, I don't even think Merged wants to take that risk, because I think we are just going to full camp this. Just sitting here, watching, waiting, as we know we always are going to have a 3-gen down here. We have the torch room, we have the library, and we have the hallway gen down here to be able to play. We see the Static Blast getting a little bit of info of where these survivors are. Portal going to be open. We get the swing, but not going to end up coming through there. As Julian, I think, just going to end up being body blocked, as we not getting that hit means that this is a healthy survivor. We probably have someone else rotating down, I would imagine, through the main stairs, but no one spotted coming through just yet. As Julian, this is going to be a difficult spot to trade in, as trying to get this, but Merged continuing to just try to body block this. I don't think we can physically get this. No, we can. Julian able to get that trade, but body blocking Jaden now, trying to make their way to this library gen. It's going to be close, though. Do we end up making this? You can get grabbed out of this.
Don't get grabbed.
Yeah, we need to.
Jaden,
Oh, no,
Jaden,
we don't know.
Jaden.
This is not how we wanted this to go. Is now Julian still on the floor? Does the pickup even come through? I don't know. I don't think so. As we get the shot here. That is Momo. This is PR. That might be just spelling disaster in the trial. As Jaden, the first chase, accidentally hopping lock and then pathing around the room slightly wrong. And now getting grabbed out of the portal. Julian on hook in his stead. I think this might just be the game now. I think that play by Jaden might have just sealed Merged to be able to get this 4K, as we still just have a 3-gen. No one's down here. Merged once again, the soldier holding the line, waiting for the Petroleum survivors to push.
Wow, I know you can't see me, ladies and gentlemen, but my jaw is on the floor. I cannot believe the series of events we've just witnessed here. Cyber, you're 100% right. At first I didn't like this camp, but now I do like it. I had not realized just how brutal this hook position is right now. If you already know that there's nobody already on this bottom floor, there's only 2 entrance points, as you very well pointed out. Merged unable to convert that tag onto Momo. Momo has been able to slip past the staircase now, but this is body blockable, as we saw. This is difficult to get the unhook out of here. And wow, yeah, Momo gonna be going down. That's gonna be another PR. We're already at 5 stages. We need 3 more, or 2 more if it's on Kenshi. So any death right now would be or anything close to death would be very, very detrimental for PTR. And look, Merged just doesn't want to leave this. I mean, why would he? This is so strong right now. But at some point, I feel after the next generator pops, maybe even Julian after he gets reset and we get this info. Look at that. We know where Kenshi is. We know what Julian is doing. This means that we have time to get away and try to make it into this. Maybe the shock does stop you. Julian didn't take that. Does Kenshi have enough time to get this pull? Yes, he does, but now we can just simply replace this hook and be absolutely a-okay. Just, wow. I'm getting word that apparently it does. Yeah, shocking with Doctor does stop you from taking the TP. Okay, we learned something new. So, wow. I mean, it's just... Kenshi being here is very good in terms of now there's somebody to get this pull, and Merged can't hold that busted spot, can't just abuse that endlessly and get this some value over here. But the thing is, the next Static Blast will reveal Kenshi's position, and then Merged will be more than happy to try to commit. Momo is not healthy, so he's not able to take a hit. We do, in fact, however, find Momo on the dungeon, and that's the thing. Even if you pop the top gens, now you have to deal with the bottom gens, and clearly Merged had thought of this all ahead. Not as many resources on this side here as there are normally, and look, the pull interrupted. This is going to be 4K1.
Yeah, Kenshi, now knowing that this does interrupt it, Kenshi is stuck. Just has this pallet to be able to playing at this table right now. Are we going to be able to make anything happen? Not even going to make the shock. Instead, going for the vault, does die at the docks. And that'll be a 4K1 for Merged. You know, we had talked about the builds and no, it's optimal for you to play totems. Then we had a totem. It got cleansed instantly. But, you know, we've talked about all day is the adaptability. And Merged did exactly that. Adapting perfectly to be able to get that. Understood. My top side, I can't really play it. I have a perfect hook position here. They even got the trade, but we just forced that survivor up to the top floor. 4K1 for Merged. Mercy evolving to our upper semis, if I'm not mistaken. I think they're meeting X9 if we look at our bracket here. But yeah, what a game.
Yeah. I mean, wow. Wow, yeah, Mercy gonna be moving forward to the third round, moving into the best of fives as well. No more best of threes on that. And Petroleum is gonna be hopping down to the losers bracket, and I believe gonna be meeting Oh Boy in the losers round 1. But yeah, just incredible. That spot is just so I don't believe that exists. My brain can still wrap my head around it. Clearly Merged has played a few pubs. Clearly Merged understands how this map works slightly better than Jaden did, and I think that is what it came down at the end of the day. If he figured that out on the spot, my hat's is off to Merged, because that is absolutely genius to figure out exactly when and where that spot is, that we're realizing, oh wait, they can't actually get down here if I don't let them, or without me knowing, and then I could just keep camping that. Okay, let them do my top gens, that's fine. They have less resources to play with down here. I can shock them off of the gate, and they just never really make it out. So that is just so brutal for Mesh. And as you said, adaptability is a very, very big concept. You can be as ready as you want beforehand, but if you don't have the character, the willpower, and the ingenuity to go into a map, see what it plays like, and just make something happen, then simply you are going to lose. And I think that is, at the end of the day, what made it better for them. Merged just came out, outperformed well, even though they lost the only set, performed great. Merged 4K3 on Ghoul, and now Merged 4K1 on Doctor here while playing. Some people will call it boring, some people might call it whatever. I think that is just a brilliant strategy here. And we can never forget, and I think they will never let Jaden forget, that he got grabbed off of the gate because he doesn't play enough pubs.
Absolutely it is. We alluded a little bit to it. X9 and Mercy will be the matchup in that upper semifinals, as I'm extremely intrigued to see that. I'm unsure if that'll be a game we happen next week, or if we are going to start our loser bracket round, or our lower bracket, whatever you want to call it. It's the same thing nonetheless. But if we are going to start our lower bracket rounds, or if we are going to see that upper bracket continue on. But either way, that is going to be entertaining to watch, because we've talked about it since this tourney started. Mercy have been punching up, trying to just show these top teams that, hey, we can hang, we can keep performing. And I mean, so far they are. They have yet to meet the makes of, I'd say, the top 3, but I mean, they're going to get the next step up the ladder next. You beat one NA team. Congratulations. Next week, you meet another, as that'll be a very, very entertaining game to watch, Volkuz.
It certainly will be, and I mean, not to downplay PTR at all. They clearly showed us that they know how to play and they know what they're doing here today, but I do think X9 is the pinnacle of NA comp. So you have to really step up your game. What you did here with PTR is good and it's impressive, but can you bring that same energy? Can you have the same dominant performances here? It will of course depend on the killers. I don't know if we're going to see another Ghoul. I would love to see another Ghoul. However, yeah, no matter what happens, I think that is going to be a huge day for comp to go and watch and see what Mercy can do and prove that they can hang out with arguably a top 5 team, one of the best teams in the world, X9. They beat number 2 NA, now they have to punch up to number 1. But yeah, I'm very pleased. I feel like we've been going for 5 hours, Cyber. I can't even lie to you. There's been so much action, so much high-octane gameplay here today. I am more than satisfied. It's a nice 2 a.m. over here, so I am definitely going to be going to bed well fed on comp content.
So, other than that, I don't know if Mathis has any words or any closing thoughts, but that is just such a game for today.
It's becoming extremely late, therefore I also want to cut the outro, a bit shorter. Thank you both very much. Are there any finishing thoughts that you wanted to share, Cyber, before I rudely interrupted you?
You are all good. Is nothing. Just excited to see these games, and I'm curious what our schedule is going to be, if we're starting that lower bracket or if we're going to continue this upper bracket matches for next week.
Yeah, next week we'll be continuing with the lower bracket round 1. So this is also going to be the first stage in the tournament where we will be saying goodbye to the teams permanently for this tournament. Because again, double elimination means you get that one lifeline of descending to the lower bracket, but there you lose one more time, and that is the end of the road for you in the tournament. It's been a fantastic set of trials. I'm really glad we went Tiebreaker because, I mean, Dr. Forgotten Ruins is something you see very rarely. And I also love the dynamic that both of these teams were able to show us because one is, in game 1, the Team Mercy popped 2 generators downstairs, which forces the killer to stay upstairs because then obviously there's nothing else really to defend any longer. And then the interaction just becomes so dynamic. So active, constantly under pressure is what you've pointed out numerous times as well. We saw so much value from Wide Open Throttle, Duty of Care, etc, etc. It was a fantastic back and forth. And in the second game, I mean, Merch just demonstrated us what happens if you get 2 tapped downstairs and then give the killer the best hook in the map. So I knew about the spot. I did some testing with this before, and it's really unfortunate to give this up to the kill at the start of the trial because you have to go in with a 2-man save very quickly. Otherwise, you're just going to let the survivor die on that hook because obviously why would the killer ever leave when he has clear line of sight on both entranceways and then also is able to defend all of the generators when nobody's really able to invade this space anymore. So it's a double-edged sword. This map, definitely. There's a lot of interaction possible, but also it can be really, really bad, really... Yeah, it can just be extremely precarious for the survivors once that hook downstairs is achieved. Or any hook, really. Merch just got super lucky that he managed to get that hook right in the middle as well, because obviously that's not the only hook spot downstairs. But yeah, from that angle, he's able to defend all generators from the hook with just one shot. They're all in shock range, essentially. But yes, this has been carrying on too long. We've been live for 2.5 hours, so that's also a really nice number. So I do second when Volkuz pointed out that this feels like it's been going on for forever. I always need to wake up early, so yeah, I want to cut this short. I want to give a big thank you, first of all, of course, to the casters, Cyber and Volkuz, for being available this late in the day. For Cyber, it's the late evening, but for Volkuz, it's also 2 AM now. So ridiculously late, but we're still here to cherish the games, to witness what Mercy and Petroleum were able to put up today, and it was definitely an exciting set of matches and a fantastic interlude to the upcoming first round of the lower bracket. And of course, a big thank you to our refs in the background who've been putting in all this work, especially Maxolotl and Eddie and Trikz, who've been taking care of the scorecard and setting up the matches. Thank you very much for also participating in the chat moderation on Twitch. And yeah, that basically sums it up. Revival Divisions League brought to you by me and James, or Peppers. And yes, I wish you all a fantastic rest of the evening. This is Mathis, signing out. Play the trailer.